Hello? Is everybody here? Hello, am I live? Hello? Is everybody here? Alright. So I got a special little stream for you here today. Got a special little stream. We're gonna be doing some stuff with TierlistMaker because I think it's funny, and if you disagree with my, I spoiled one of the tier lists for you already. God damn it! I didn't want to spoil them. If you disagree with my opinions, you're wrong and cringe. I'm right, factually speaking. So, we're just going to go through these. I got a couple lined up. I'm probably going to do more than that since I want to go for a while tonight, since I'm not super busy for once, but I'll see. So, first of all, and that's all I'm going to be doing the entire time. I'm not playing any games today. I didn't know about what category to put this in because there's no category for tier list maker. So, I just put it as a just chatting thing cuz I couldn't really think of anything else. Ignore the ads on the side. We got some interesting ads here. Actually, I might be able to crop those. Hmm. Nah. Anyway, we'll just keep going. Alright, so first up we get Nickelodeon shows. I haven't watched all of these shows, so I'm gonna put a tier below here for stuff that I haven't watched. Oops, why did I do that? I hit the full screen button by accident. So we're gonna do that because I don't like ranking things that I haven't seen. Doesn't seem very fair. And we're gonna go first of all Drake and Josh. Yeah, actually, you gotta. It's excellent. That show is so funny. I mean, Drake is obviously problematic, and we don't talk about that. But if you take it on its own, I thought that show was hilarious. And I don't know, to me, when it comes to Nick shows, the live action ones, they have a lot that are really good. But I feel like Drake and Josh has got to be one of the best live action Nick show. I'm trying to think of some others. I mean, we'll see, but I feel like as of right now, that's got to be one of them. Zoe 101. I've sort of seen it, but I don't remember enough to really be able to tell you definitively how I feel about that show. I have no idea, to be honest with you. iCarly. I feel like iCarly is pretty good. I liked iCarly. I didn't watch it that much, but I feel like it was a very funny show. It had an interesting premise, sort of, with the whole streaming thing. I think that was a little bit ahead of its time. I think some of the other writing was a little bit cringe, like the thing with the kids whose dad is a rapper. That was kind of okay, and the fact that it's you have, oh, what's his name, the guy, oh fuck, it's the Nick guy. What's his name? That's so not specific, but oh, what is his name? This is gonna piss me off. What is his name? Dan Schneider or whatever? Yeah, that's why it loses a little bit of points. Rugrats? Rugrats was a pretty good show. I feel it wasn't that. It's not an excellent. Actually, it's just good because a lot of the novelty of the show is the humor is oh, they're stupid babies and they don't understand. Look at them not understanding the way of the world. And it's just I mean, it's funny sometimes, but I feel like it gets kind of old. But the jokes are still funny. It's just a little redundant with some of that. But I feel like the adults actually can carry the show in terms of some of the humor. SpongeBob gotta be excellent. I mean, if we're talking overall, all the seasons of SpongeBob, it would be maybe down here. But I feel like when it comes to SpongeBob, for me personally, I'm just rating it based on the first, what is it, 3 or 4 seasons, maybe 5, whatever was before the main writer left. I would say was probably it's got to be here. Otherwise, the more recent seasons are here, watchable to good, because it's still a good kids show. It's just not what it was. Cat Dog is sort of similar to me with Rugrats, where the main shtick of the show is kind of used too much. Where it's they're just attached to. Well, I feel if I could put it between great and good, I would, but I feel it leans towards good because it's almost like a kid's version of The Odd Couple. Which, if you've never seen The Odd Couple, it's this. Oh well, it was originally a play, and then it was made into a show in the, oh god, I don't think it was the 70s. I think it was the 80s. I don't think it was the 90s. That's too late. I think like 70s or 80s. My dates are bad. And it's about like this sports writer guy. He's a slob, and he's living with I don't know what the other guy does, but he's living with this other guy that's like a neat freak, and it's about like kind of like them butting heads all the time, because they both got divorced and kicked out of their house, so then they agree to live together. So in that sense, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of reminiscent of The Odd Couple, but like without some of the funny writing. So Hey Arnold, God Tier show. Sort of similar to some of the other shows you'll see here. It deals with like a lot of very adult topics, and it's humorous in a dry way sometimes. Like a lot of kids shows kind of aren't. Where like a lot of kids shows are very bombastic in your face with what they're dealing with, but like I don't know. This should, actually let me crop these ads because this is gonna bother the shit out of me if I don't do it. let's get let's get these ads off the goddamn screen. So I don't know what's gonna show up on your end here. It's probably gonna update in real time. Boop. No. It's gonna look a little weird, but I will fix it. I assure you. It's just bothering me. There we go. Move that over here. I could make this bigger, but the problem with me making it bigger is that you wouldn't be able to see anything. Can I put something in the background? Let's see if I can find a funny picture on my... Let's see if I can find a funny picture on my... Let's see if I can find a funny picture to put in the background. We got any funny pictures? Let me see. I don't think I got one. Actually, you know what? I got one. There we go. Don't read what that says. I'm gonna put this guy here. He's gonna... The guy from Mr. Meaty, he's going on the left. And then you know what else we're gonna do? I got one more for you. What do you mean unsaved changes? What the heck? Oh, you gotta put one more in the background. Let's see. What else do we got to put in that old background right there? The old background. I put. Oh wait, I want to put that, but I can't. I don't feel like rotating it. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't be that hard. Actually, no, I don't want to use that one. We're gonna use... Fuck, I want to try to find another one. I'm gonna put this dog, because he looks funny. We're gonna put the dog. I like the dog. He's going in there. Look at this funny dog. He's going in the background. We're gonna stretch him out a little bit. He's getting stretched a little. There we go. Perfect. This is a very professional looking stream. We like to keep things serious here. Look at this stream setup. Look at this. Look at this. This is wonderful. Anyway. Okay. Back to the actual important stuff. So we got Are You Afraid of the Dark here. I've heard good things, I've never seen it. Closer explains it all, never seen it. I feel like I know what this is, but I don't know enough. Oh, The Amanda Show was pretty great. That was another show that was like really funny with live action stuff. It was mostly kind of like XD random humor, like bring out the dancing lobsters. But I think if it came out now, it would feel a little try hard. But I think I shouldn't look into the camera like that. That's kind of awkward, right? People don't like that. I'm not gonna do it. You don't like being stared directly into your soul, I suppose. But yeah, I think in that respect, because of its time, it was pretty good. Angry Beavers, I think it was a good show. I don't really have much thoughts on the Angry Beavers. I thought all the cast members of the Angry Beavers were pretty funny. I don't really remember much of the show other than they're beavers and they're angry, but whatever. Fairly Odd Parents, if you want to just include like the first couple of seasons, I would still put it here. But again, if we're going overall, it's down here. But I'll put it up there, just with respect to the older seasons. It's pretty much the same exact thing as SpongeBob, where it just got so much worse, like, over time. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea. What is that? I don't know what that is. Oh, this is Mr. Meaty. God tier. This is gonna be biased, but I don't care. That show was so goddamn weird with so much stuff, and it was still funny, and like it's even funnier to get today. I feel like I don't know. That show has got like that's what that image is from. Well, I can't show you my mouse, but it's the image on the left side of the screen over there. That show is godlike. It's like a puppet show, and it's got like really weird humor. It's kind of gross out sometimes, so like realistically, I should probably put it down here because it relies on that sometimes. But nah, the X's, I have no idea. Cat Scratch. I like Cat Scratch as a kid, but I feel like something with Angry Beavers, like a talking animal show that's like it's good, but it's not great. It's just kind of like it's kind of there. It's funny. What the fuck is this? I don't know what that is. Rabbids? No. Planet Sheen? I have no idea. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. What are these shows? They're cropped so badly. What is that? Caitlin's Way? I have no idea. Welcome, freshman. I feel like I know what this is, but I can't see what it is. Damn it. Okay, we'll just put it there. What are these shows? Oh, Ah Real Monsters? I've seen a little bit of that. I feel like the show was good. But again, it was actually, I don't really like it. I think that's like a cult hit, but like, there's so much like gross stuff in the show, and it's not actually that funny. I don't really like it that much now that I think about it. It was a little bit before my time, but I've seen enough of it to judge it, I think. My Teenage Robot, it was pretty good. I liked it. I liked all the characters. I don't really remember the names of the characters, but I felt like it had pretty good characters. But I feel like whatever the overall stories that were going on weren't really that interesting. So it's also cool as like certain things happening is like a euphemism for puberty, and you're using a robot to kind of communicate that because you know what it reminds me of these days is it turning red, where the whatever she turns into is kind of like a euphemism for that as well. I feel like that's an interesting angle because you're making them a robot, so people can't complain about like showing kids bad things, which is idiotic. Because it's like, can I take a step back for a moment and just say, what's the dumbest argument to me right now? And I don't want to be too negative about this, but I'm trying to like, this is just people being stupid. Like when people are talking about turning red, there's these people that are like, it's dealing with adult topics, like or adult topics in reference to puberty. It's like, adults don't go through puberty, you moron. Adults, like, come on. It's important for kids to talk about because they're the ones going through it. By the time you're an adult, it's too late to learn all that stuff. You could then teach it to your kid, but that's on you. Anyway, I feel like in that respect, it's a very interesting idea. I would imagine that's why they made it a robot, or they made Jenny a robot to begin with. I just couldn't remember her name. Well, I mean, also the show would be boring if she was just Jenny, to be fair, but, I think that's cool. I have no idea what this is. Henry Danger, I've heard, no idea. Big Time Rush, don't remember. Nope. This is going in, I can't do that till Fred. What is it? Lip Sync Battle Show? I have no idea what this is. Oh, Rugrats All Grown Up. I liked All Grown Up. That was another show that if I'm remembering correctly, it did deal with some slightly heavier stuff in terms of like people growing up, being a kid, teenager, I think. So it gets points for that. I would put it between great and good, but it was pretty. I actually liked it. But is it better than the original Rugrats? Nah, I'm gonna put it down here because I don't think it's better than the original Rugrats. I've heard of Big Time Rush, but I never saw it. I don't know. I mean, like, I've heard good things, but I didn't. That's a little past my time. This just has like every goddamn show that's ever existed on this fucking network. Wild Thornberries. I liked it. It was pretty good. There's not much to say. I mean, Nigel's obviously such an iconic character, but so are the other characters. Like, whoever the main character is, whatever her name is. Obviously, it's kind of ironic that they're iconic, and I can't remember their names, but I liked her. I liked the sister. I liked the monkey, whatever his name is. They were all good characters, and it was an interesting setting too. Like these like safari, sort of like these roaming safari family. It was a very interesting concept that opened up a lot of possibilities with like what you could write in. That was pretty cool. Jimmy Neutron is great. The animation is terrible. Relatively speaking, even for the time, it was like not It was like okay for the time, but otherwise it's a very funny show. I like it. It's a classic of mine when I was a kid. I don't have much else to say about that. Rocket Power. Ooh, Rocket Power. I liked Rocket Power, but I have no idea. This could go anywhere here and I wouldn't even disagree. Fuck, I don't know. Oh, where does Rocket Power go? I feel like Rocket Power is just like represents the whole like what is it, late 90s, early 2000s, potentially earlier as well, of course, craze with like skating. So like part of me wants to put it higher because it's just such a product of its time. It's like a time capsule almost. Yeah, let's put it in grid. I love that part of it. The bad animation made it better. Yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? I could keep the riot music in the background. I forgot about that. Let me do that to make things a little more interesting. I totally didn't even think about. Let me hide the screen for a second. Riot games soundtrack free use. There we go. You're gonna hear it, but I want to see the volume. Oh, the desktop audio is way too loud. Let me know how the volume is. Oh, you're not gonna be able to hear that. Let me know how the volume is, like I said, but yeah, okay. Let me pop up the screen again. There you go. Okay. I just wanted, I was like thinking to myself, I feel like I'm missing something, and then I realized I didn't have any music. I still haven't found better royalty-free music than that playlist, but you know, I don't know. You can even see the tab open. Actually, wait, you can't see the tab because, yeah. Anyway. Alright, Just Jordan. I don't know what that is. Salmon Cat, I heard about. Victorious, no idea. Invader Zim, automatic god tier. I mean, Invader Zim. If I had a tier above this one, I feel like SpongeBob first few seasons would go up there. Fairly Odd Parents, Hey Arnold. Actually, pretty much everything here except for Mr. Meaty would even go higher if I could. I mean, Invader Zim is one of those shows where, again, it does rely a little bit on gross out humor. It's a little loud. I'll turn it slightly down. And, well, it's royalty free because you know how like they're not royalty free. Like I just don't want to like get in trouble, you know, with the automatic bullshit censors or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Invader Zim is just like just the style of humor and presentation and all this other stuff. It's again a little bit reliant on gross out humor sometimes, which I didn't really like. But other than that, I think I don't really have any issue with the show at all, and it's very cool for a kids show. Written by somebody who really I would never have expected to write a kids show, but here we are. Chalk Zone? Chalk Zone was like a solid kids show. I don't think it did anything too wrong. I don't think it did anything too special. It was a very interesting idea, especially because like, you know, when you're a kid, you're in class, you got all this chalk, playing with a chalkboard. These days they mostly got whiteboards. I don't know if these damn kids these days use chalkboards at all anymore. But I think that part of it is cool. So it's like a little bit of something everyone can relate to, a draw on the chalk. I imagine there are quite a few kids like, I want to go into Chalk Zone, and they draw the thing and they just hit their head on the chalkboard. You'll love it. What is this, Legends of the what temple? It said Hidden Temple. I don't think that's what that's called. I don't know what that is. Loud House I've heard good things about for a new show, but Mighty Bee, no idea. Back at the Barnyard, wasn't that based on a movie originally? Wasn't the Barnyard thing a movie? Or am I crazy? I like Back at the Barnyard, though. I'm a sucker for that. I don't think... Nah, actually, it's not as good as these shows. It's good. I like that show. I liked it. It was, again, similar to the other one. The animation could be a little weird sometimes, but, What is this? I don't know what that is. Avatar? Easy guy. I don't even need to explain that one. Legends of Korra I actually still haven't seen, so I can't speak to that one. I mean, Avatar is just such a classic. This would be another one that would go up higher if I could. Crashlets? I don't know what that is. I don't know what this is. El Tigre? You know, this might be a hot take. I think El Tigre was a really good show. I really liked that. I really love the animation. I like the setting, the whole luchador thing. Though, I don't remember if this show came out first, or there was a luchador show on Cartoon Network as well, actually. But I don't remember what it was. I think it was literally called, like, something like Luchadore? Oh my god, what the hell is it called? Let me look it up. I don't know what it was called, but like I feel like whatever show came out first, that might have inspired it. Cartoon Network show. Luchadors. This is gonna kill me because I should know this. Just Mucha Lucha. Right, that one. I like that show. Doug is another show that was a little before my time. But Rocco was as well, but I've seen it. I think Rocco's a pretty good show. Weren't they gonna revive that with a Netflix thing, or did that already come out? If that already came out, I should watch that actually. I think that would be pretty fun. Again, another show with kind of like a weird presentation and style of humor, but I can appreciate it in retrospect. But I don't know what that is. Don't know what this is. Well, I know what this is, but I don't care. Don't know what that is. What is this? What is this? You can't see it on your screen, but... Oh, right, you can't even see the full... Let me shrink this a little bit. Oh, right, yeah, you can't see the full screen. I'm gonna move it a little bit so you can see, and let's take this, squish it a little bit there. There we go. Nice. That's a little better. I didn't realize you couldn't see that much, but yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Right. Actually, yeah, that's good enough. I'll just bear in mind you can't see down here and scroll more so you can see it. Hey, what is this? Marvin Mystery? What is it? I don't know what the heck that is. I don't know what this is. What the hell is this? Oh my god, what is that? Fanboy and Chum Chum? A little bit before my time, or after my time? I don't know. I don't know. I know the movie for Monsters and Aliens. I don't know any of these. Oh, is this? No, I don't know what that is. I thought that was Ned's Declassified. Actually, have we seen Ned's Declassified yet? Wasn't that a Nick show? Where's Ned? Oh, it's right there. I was like looking everywhere except there. Ned goes up here. God tier. I love that show. Such a classic. It's not as good as Drake and Josh, I would say, in terms of live action shows, but it's still pretty good. Livewire. Ren and Stimpy, another one. God tier show. If we're not talking about when it moved to MTV, if we're just talking about the Nick run. Don't know about this. Don't know about this. Nope. 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 What is this show? I don't know what that is. What is this? Isn't this the logo? Oh, that's Danny Phantom. Oh my god, these guys should put the actual show names. Danny Phantom's an easy god tier as well. Nothing else really needs to be said about Danny Phantom. It's one of the lower ends of these shows, I would say, but it's still pretty good. Wienerville? What the fuck is that? No one knows best. Nope. 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 Yeah, I don't know any of these. So then we're just left with these. I feel like I'm missing some shows because the icons are kind of weird, but I'm pretty confident in these. I think if I was to move any of these up or down, maybe the Wild Thornberries, but I think the setting is really creative and leads to some cool stuff, like I said. Maybe El Tigre would go down. Maybe Rugrats and All Grown Up would go up, but I think this is pretty good. So, you know, again, with a lot of these shows, we're talking about when the shows were actually good. It's no Courage because it's a Cartoon Network list. It's not a Cartoon Network list. Idiot. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, Courage is Cartoon Network, not Nickelodeon. I could pull up a Cartoon Network one if you wanted to. That wasn't my plan. This is my next one. See, I kind of wanted to just pull this up because I don't think that this is going to be a rapid fire one, but I think that like this one is hilarious to me because would you like to know what the title of this one was? Greatest video games of all time, 100+ games. And like these are just like totally weird choices. Well, they're not like that weird actually. A lot of these are really good games. But like Roblox? Are you serious? This one's gonna take forever though. Let me zoom out. Oh, but now you can see the ads. Can you even see these icons? Well, you can sort of see them. So So, well, I'm just gonna go from looking here to there. So I've played BioShock. I mean, I feel like the problem is that like these are like all really good games. I don't think you could put them in fucking bad to. I don't think you could put almost any of these games here. Because it's like what? BioShock here, Castlevania, New Vegas, Half-Life, Street Fighter. I've not played it. Smash Brothers, TF2. Actually, Until Dawn I haven't played. Warframe. Oh, Warframe. See, I don't like including these games like Warframe, like the multiplayer ones, because I feel like you can't rate them the same as other games because they're constantly changing and developing. You could talk about them in specific time frames, I think, but as a whole package, I find that not really fair because, like, you know, I don't know. That's just not my preference. Uncharted 4. Yeah. What is this? Yakuza Kiwami 2? No. We're gonna be ignoring these probably, to be honest with you. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is good, but like I don't know why on earth you would pick that one for Yakuza. There's gotta be other Yakuza games here, right? Battlefield 1, I haven't played it. I don't know why that's there. Tony Hawk, Red Dead Redemption 2. Dota 2, like, let me just make another tier. Oops. Why does it do that? I'm not rating these games. Oh, I renamed the goddamn tier list. God damn it. Why does it keep doing that? Alright, add a tier below. And then we'll do this. Why does it keep backing out when I do that? Come on. I'm just gonna say developing games, like games that are in development all the time, basically. Not rating. There we go. So that's gonna be Warframe, Dota 2. Fire Emblem Three Houses, I think, is a very... Let me do another tier for too recent to call. There we go. Make that one white. Oh, I renamed the goddamn tier list again. Stop doing that. Ah. There we go. Okay. Now let's do this one right. Add a tier below. There we go. These ones are too recent. IMO 2 rate. There we go. So that's gonna be Fire Emblem, Halo Reach, Masterpiece, Sonic Mania, Hat in Time. I think when you're talking about these games, it's very good, but you cannot compare it to this tier of games. I almost immediately put it up there, but then I remembered like this is all in reference to like each other, right? So like I think when you consider Hat in Time, I'm surprised they put Hat in Time up here. That reeks of some bias, I'm not gonna lie to you. Batman Arkham City for this? Yeah, what the heck is this? Jungle Party? I haven't played. I also think Red Dead 2 is too recent as well. Modern Warfare 3? Ooh, I would not put Modern Warfare 3 on this list at all, to be honest. I'm gonna put decent. We're gonna get rid of these because I feel like I don't think any game on here is gonna actually justify being there, to be honest with you. Crash Team Racing? I played Crash Team Racing. It's good, but like I don't think it really belongs on this list. Mass Effect 2, absolutely massive. Dude, I freaking love Mass Effect games. Mass Effect 2 to me, like, there's so many characters in the game, and they were written so well. The story's so good. The combat is tightened up a lot from 1. You are missing some of those RPG elements from 1, but I feel like it's mostly in the benefit of the game. The graphics at the time were very good. Obviously, the choices don't matter quite as much as some people would like, but, you know, I still think it's an absolutely fantastic game and definitely one of the best games ever made. Final Fantasy VII? People are going to hate me for this one? I haven't played it. I know. I was going to play the remake, but I forgot. But I don't think I'm ever going to go back and play the original. That's pretty unlikely. What is this? Watch Dogs? No. No. Who put Watch Dogs on here? Get out of here. It's subjective ultimately, but oh my god. This one doesn't, like, we're adding another one here. This doesn't even belong on here. I think this doesn't belong on here either. I don't think any of these games belong. In fact, I don't think Hat in Time even belongs on here. It's pretty good, but greatest of all time? Remember, these are all, like, relatively speaking. Did I put Batman here? I meant to put it up here. Uncharted 3, easy. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. No, it's too short. It's great. It's a really good game, but I just finished streaming it. The VODs are there. I think the problem with Metal Gear is two things. I think one is that the combat is a little too simple for what they could have done with it. The cutting thing is cool. That mechanic is great and unique. But when you compare it to other hack and slashes, even that came out at its time or before, like Bayonetta, like Devil May Cry, those kinds of games, also made by Platinum, it's a little simpler, which I think is on purpose, and it's still good, but I think they could have done more with the combat. And the second thing is, it feels a little unfinished to me, where the last couple levels of the game feel very rapid fire, where there was supposed to be things in between, but there just wasn't ever anything made. So that's why it's going to go in great. It honestly probably should go in very good, though. I think it should go in very good, because it's not a finished game. But Platinum did fantastic for what time they had. Bloodborne, masterpiece, not even close. Metal Gear Solid 5. Haven't played it. Lego Star Wars 2. Oh, I mean, it's a really good game, but does it really belong on this list? But very good. I think it does. I think it's a really good game for what it is. Shadow of the Colossus, didn't play it yet. XCOM 2, nope. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, don't think it's quite on this tier of games. In fact, you know, Yakuza Kiwami should not even... Yakuza Kiwami does not belong in this list. Kiwami 2? Absolutely fucking not. Because they were still figuring out their way around to the new engine with this game. So it's still very good, but I don't find it appropriate to be on a list like this. And I think there's other Yakuza games that you could put on this list, to be honest with you. What is it, GTA 4? Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 3, didn't play it. Black Flag. My bias wants to put this up here. My bias really wants to, but I think it belongs here with the other Assassin's Creed, because they're still both really good games. Some of my favorite games of all time. Brotherhood and Black Flag are probably the peak of the series, I would say. But I feel like the way that it was getting a little formulaic even by Black Flag, and a lot of the trailing missions, and the combat is probably too easy even for casuals, to be honest. And I think that's why they kind of both... I don't think any of the Assassin's Creed games belong up here, I think, to be honest with you. Maybe 2 if you only consider the time it came out. But I don't know. Just my opinion. I love Assassin's Creed games, like the good ones, but I don't think so. Smite? It's a developing game. That doesn't count. Doom 2016? I think Doom is better than these games, but maybe... No, I think it's about as good. Borderlands 2... I love Borderlands 2, but I think it belongs down here, and I think the reason for that is I think it really... It's good at what it does, but to me, I feel like it mostly just built upon what was already there in Borderlands 1, and kind of has better subsystems. Like, for example, revolvers and pistols not being separate things, the weird alien weapons that, for most people's purposes, were very clunky, are not even in the game. And I think it just did a good, it's like, took the Borderlands formula and really refined it, but it didn't really do anything super special, and it has some mistakes in terms of, like, it's kind of like the epitome of one of those games where a lot of the enemies on higher difficulties just end up being bullet sponges, and needing the slag element, which there's different elements for the guns if you've ever played it, and it's only in 2. There's a type called slag, where if the enemy is affected by it, they take Well, it's double damage normally. On higher difficulties, it's up to 3 or 4, and it's effectively necessary to have a weapon with that to apply to these enemies to even kill them. Even then, they're kind of bullet spongy. So it's a very specific thing, but it does really, really hurt the game for a lot of like people who played a lot of it, including myself. So for that, I have to keep it down here, I would say. Trying to think. Final Fantasy 15, didn't play it yet. Watch Dogs 2? No, that does not belong on the list. Dark Souls 3? I've played some of Dark Souls 3, but I'm not really comfortable. I've played it, but like not enough to like feel comfortable rating it. Dark Souls 1, same thing. Shadow of War? I've played some of... Oh no, I played Shadow of Mordor now. I'm not sure that really belongs on this list. What is this, Need for Speed? Is this the reboot one? Why would you put Need for Speed here and not, Oh no, I was thinking Burnout Paradise. That should be on this list if it's not. I haven't played it. Super Mario Odyssey. You know, it's funny, we had a lot of guaranteed masterpieces, but now, you know, we're getting into plenty that are not. Devil May Cry 5? This one also came out around when Three Houses came out, so this is a little bit of... I love Three Houses, of course. I know, you know what? I want to put it in here, but I feel like it's not... No, I feel confident putting Devil May Cry 5 in here, even with it being more recent, because I just think, like, in terms of hack and slashes, I just think that's about as good as you get. You have 3 different characters, they all play completely distinct, but they're all super interesting to play as. The graphics are really good, the enemy encounter design is really good, and almost anytime you get hit, it's totally your fault. It really eases you into the combat system in a way that a lot of games like that don't. It has a lot of complexity to it by the same token, so it's really appealing to everyone on every skill level, really. The music is amazing. If I had to critique anything, I would say that the story is a little predictable, even for a Devil May Cry game. And I felt like they underutilized some of their characters, like Trish and Lady, who I feel like were just there just to not really do much. I think they could have done better with that. But I don't really find much fault in the game otherwise. And some of the level design at times can be a little shoddy with some stuff. But like some of the like platforming elements, but there's not really much, and they make it really easy because they know the platforming is kind of clunky, so it's not a big deal. Soul Calibur 6. That's another tricky one, but I haven't played it, so we'll just leave it there. Assassin's Creed Odyssey doesn't even belong on this list. I firmly believe that that game does not belong on a list like that. And I've played 40 hours of Odyssey. I can say that. I think it is a very good, a very competent action RPG, but I feel like it has several issues. For one thing, I feel like when you level up your character, the upgrades that you get feel sort of satisfying, but not like by that much from what I remember. Like, I can't even remember any of the upgrades that I got off the top of my head. They were just not that interesting. I feel like it's like Origins, it sways too far from what makes Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed. It would have been fine as a spin-off, but not as a main game. I think the story is fine. I think the characters are good. But I just think in terms of the combat, it just feels very, very vanilla action RPG. I don't think it does anything particularly wrong. I don't think it does anything really well at all, though. I think the combat feels satisfying when you are doing damage, but the problem is just that enemies are just too health spongy on a lot of difficulties. And it's a game that's honestly best just played on easy difficulty, so you could just kind of burn through it. I tried to play it on harder difficulty, enemies just were tankier by a lot. I don't like that. Mortal Kombat 11 also does not belong on this list. It's not only too recent, and it's not only a developing game in the sense that it only lost support about a year ago, but I also don't even think, even if I did rate it, from what I know, if you put me at gunpoint and told me to rate this game, I would just say, well, where's Mortal Kombat X? Because everyone I know likes X better. But granted, people always kind of think when the new thing is out, they like the old thing. 11's still a really good game. I think it's much better for casuals than X was. But from what I've played, which isn't too much, and like, I may have just said I didn't play it. I played it a little bit. I don't think it really belongs on this list. I think it's very good, though. I think it's very good. Oh, the original Doom I've never played. This is just going here too for similar reasons. Where I think it's very good, but it doesn't belong on a list of greatest games of all time. Half-Life 2. Actually, have I played Half-Life 2? I feel like I've gaslit myself into thinking I've played Half-Life 2, and yet I have not. We'll put that. Yeah, I don't even know if I played Half-Life 1. I think I just put it there reflexively. Yeah, let's put these here. Oh wait, no, shit. No, they belong on this list. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put it there. League of Legends, garbage game. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't count. It's not even a game that's finished yet. Overwatch. This counts as developing too, but I would also say it doesn't belong on the list. This is a remake. It doesn't really belong on the list. I don't think this counts. I'm not going to be counting remakes probably unless they're very hefty remakes, which that wasn't. It really just plays the same as the older Crash games, and we have a lot of games to go here. Oh my word. Oh right, you can't see it. So I'm gonna, sorry, I keep forgetting. Oh, actually I'll just keep it like this. Right, you can see that? Yeah. The top is slightly cut off, so let's move that a little bit. There we go. That's good. God of War 3, didn't play it. Dragon Ball FighterZ, I just don't think that you can rate those games. I think it's tough to even rate games of the same genre. I think it just breeds negativity and people arguing for no reason online about things that really don't matter. I mean, I think Overwatch was decent, but I think in the sense that like a lot of multiplayer games are very hard to rate objectively. You know what I mean? Like, also because they can be dog shit one day and they could be amazing the next month with some changes. And like, you know, you just can't rate it because there's so many moving parts in the human factor of a multiplayer game that it could be very difficult without a long amount of time and analysis to really feel like you have a confident opinion on the game. So I just don't think you can do that. Like, I put Street Fighter because it's an old ass game, but like Dragon Ball FighterZ they just got a DLC character. Overwatch is technically still getting updated, not really that much. Hasn't gotten a new character in ages. League is still being updated. Smite, I believe, still is. Dota 2 is. Warframe is. Like, you can't judge these games until I think they're finished, which they're not going to be anytime soon. So that's just my opinion. I just think it's a little silly, personally. Far Cry 3? I think it belongs on this list. I think it was a very good game. I think the only issue with Far Cry 3 is that people tend to say it feels like every other open world game made right now, and it's like, I think that while that's true, I think Far Cry 3 was sort of what started a lot of these, especially Ubisoft, making a lot of open world games. One sec. So, I think it started that trend, so because it wasn't a trend already, I think it stands kind of apart from other games of that genre sort of, where, you know, go around, get the tower to reveal parts of the map, go here and do this. Skyrim as well, I think, gets a pass a little bit for that, which I'd be shocked if Skyrim's not on here. FIFA? FIFA 20? What? No. Are you kidding me? What? What? Get the fuck out of here. Tetris masterpiece. We're not going to explain it. Fortnite. It's a developing game. World of Warcraft is also a developing game. Why specifically Pokemon Emerald? Do you have any other Pokemon game here? Yeah, we'll look later. I don't want to spoil myself. Why specifically Pokemon Emerald? I don't get it. But I'll put it in... I'll put it in great. God of War, I actually didn't like it, but I'm not gonna... I didn't play that much of it, so I'm not gonna... Dishonored? Oh, my chat is a little delayed, by the way. More so than usual, so if I don't answer immediately, it seems like it's... I don't know why it's delayed more than it usually is. That's weird. Yeah, FIFA is something. I don't know why they would put that on there. Dishonored, I would imagine, is on here somewhere. I can sort of see some of the bottom ones. You can. Most of it's not super surprising. Grand Theft Auto 5? I think you could safely say. I mean, if you just talk about the single player, you can't go wrong. Horizon, I haven't beaten, but I've played enough of it to feel like I can judge it. I feel like it's very good because I think it does like a lot of the open world stuff better than like say a game like Far Cry 3. But I think because it's so much more recent, I think it doesn't get as much of a pass for some of these open world tropes that it goes for. That it doesn't really. It puts its own twist on sometimes. Like the towers are like literally moving giant animals, which is cool, and you have to like. I think you have to like stop them and climb them and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But like, yeah. Yakuza 0. Ooh, this one's gonna be tough. I think this is gonna be our first amazing actually, because I think there's some flaws that really like are more glaring than a lot of other games on here. But like some combat encounters can feel like a massive pain in the butt with the way the enemies are set up, where you can feel like if you start hitting one dude, like 10 are gonna pile up on you if you don't do the right thing, and it can be a little bit difficult if you're not grinding levels and some. We're not grinding levels, but like doing a lot of the side. Like if you're not doing a lot of the side stuff, some of the main scenario bosses can feel a little cheap sometimes. It's a game where the combat can feel cheap at times, I would say, because it's not always clear how you're meant to deal with certain kinds of attacks, or you know when you can attack the guy without getting hit back too much. But I think you know just how much side stuff there is to do in the game, side activities, you know, in general. That's just super exciting. You know, like you got the RC car racing, you got the dancing, you know, you got the Actually, I don't remember if the baseball is in Yakuza 0 or if that's in some of the other games. But just like the bevy of side content to do, the main story is fantastic, even if the tone of the side stuff kind of like seems to go against it. I think that it actually does. I think the ridiculousness of the side content actually complements the seriousness of the main story, but I don't have time to get into every game here. But yeah, basically it's a game that has more sharp flaws than some of these other games, but better strengths than a lot of them as well. Because the combat itself is super satisfying, super fun. There's so much craziness that you can do, especially when you get good in terms of like using specific moves that like may have particular inputs or like scenarios that you can use them. So people forget that you can, or they may not be able to, but it's really cool to get those off. Justice 2... does not belong on this list, I think. I just don't think any multiplayer game, like multiplayer only game, really belongs on the list. Injustice does have a campaign, similar to Mortal Kombat 11, but I think for a fighting game, I think that's not really what people care about. I'm rating these based on like what people actually play, you know? So if like 95% of people are buying it to play online, then like, I'm not gonna rate it for that. Lego Indiana Jones, pretty good, but I don't think we're gonna go there. I think we'll put the other Lego Star Wars here as well, right next to the other one. Indiana Jones, I think Lego Star Wars gets more credit because it's what started it all, you know? Mario Kart 8, I feel like even though it's very derivative, I feel like Mario Kart 8 belongs up here. I mean, it's just like, when you think of kart racers, it's just Mario Kart. And it's like that for a reason. It's super good, it's got a lot of content, it is still getting updated. It is still getting updated. But I still feel confident putting it at, like, you know, like it's... you know what, we'll put amazing. Because it's a little derivative. But it's still really good. I mean, you know, you can't go wrong with Mario Kart. Super Mario Galaxy, easy. You know, even though it's more linear than some of the other Mario games, like 64, Sunshine, Odyssey, well, Sunshine is still kind of linear, but like it's more linear than those games. I think it's still super fun at what it does. The visuals that they were able to put in because of the setting in space that you don't see in any other Mario game. All the physics with the planets and stuff like that. The art style, just how bright and how everything pops at you. The music, it was like one of the first full orchestral the OSTs that Nintendo had ever done, like full orchestra. And it's one of the most historic game soundtracks of all time. You can't go wrong with it. That would be a super masterpiece if I could put one up here. Minecraft, it's just like tough to judge these kinds of games, I think. And it's also still developing. I just don't think that I'm going to rate it. I don't think it belongs there. Monster Hunter, is that... well, I didn't play enough Monster Hunter to really judge it. I didn't like it, and I don't think I can remove my bias, so I'm just going to say I didn't play enough of it. Overcooked 2, I feel... Oh, wait, you guys... you still can't see it. There you go, now you can see it. Now, the list is getting a little too big here for you to be able to see everything, I suppose. Well, I'll just browse down here and we'll move it as we go. So Overcooked 2. I feel like I think I've played that with people, but I think it's hard to rate. So I'm just not going to rate it. What is this game? Can you tell what this game is? I can't see it. What is this? What is this? Ghost Runner? What does that say? I can't read that. Pac-Man? See, that's a weird one to put, but it does make sense. How would I rate Pac-Man? We'll put great. What is this music? This sounds weird. Anyway. I mean, it's a classic. It does what it does well. Usually if you get eaten by a ghost, it's because you cornered yourself. It's kind of a quarter. Well, it's just very good because for the time it came out, it was very good. It's super simple, but it gets the job done, you know? Persona 5, this one, I could go about Persona 5 for like 10 hours. I really wanted to. It's gonna go here. One of the best soundtracks of all time. Extremely good visuals. Great characters, though they could use a little bit more character development, which they do get a little bit in Royal and Strikers. Fantastic level design with like the levels you go in, because but previous to that it was like generic RNG dungeons, but they have preset dungeon layouts now, and it does wonders for both the gameplay and the visuals. It does make replay slightly less interesting, but I think that's totally fine. The UI design is crazy good. It inspired Smash Brothers. Everybody's talked about it. You know, it's probably the greatest modern JRPG, I would say, that we have had in the last 5 to 10 years, arguably. Pokemon Sword. No. Is this Pong? You know what? Considering the time, what Pong was, masterpiece. I will not elaborate on that. Portal 2, masterpiece. Portal 1, masterpiece. Absolutely. These are some of the most iconic puzzle games of all time. And they were able to take a concept that, like, in your head, you're like, oh yeah, using portals to solve puzzles. That seems obvious to us now. But, you know, people probably had that idea, but being able to actually execute on that and not only make very interesting puzzles that really, they just work, you know? Because, like, it can be very difficult in your head. Like, imagine someone can teleport objects in themselves, like in different places. Like, you have to think, all right, where can they put a teleport portal on? Where can they not? And then, you know, like, it's very, very difficult, I think, to try to picture in your head a puzzle that's designed around using portals that isn't too easy. So not only that, but they also have a very good difficulty curve in the puzzles where you're learning how to use the portals very decent rate, which is very important because, you know, you got to think with portals, which you never do in most games. So, and they're both good at that. And then Portal 2 has the whole co-op element too, which is absolutely fantastic. I would love to replay that with someone someday. Jackbox, I don't think you can really rate that. I think Jackbox is just a game you get your mileage out of depending on the situation, the friends that you have. Resident Evil 2, haven't played. Resident Evil 4, haven't played. Sekiro, I don't like, but I also haven't played enough to really, I would say, rate it without a bias, I think. I don't really want to rate games that I feel super biased on either which way, unless, like, I feel like Persona 5 I'm biased on, but I think it doesn't matter. I think the game's just fantastic anyway. Super Metroid, haven't played. Mario Brothers 2, I don't think it's good enough to be on this list. I don't think so. Super Mario Galaxy 2, same exact reasons as Mario Galaxy 1, but it has a crap ton of new ideas, even cooler visuals. It just does everything better, if not just as well. Terraria, same reasons as Minecraft. I don't feel like rating that as appropriate. Skyrim. So now, I think I'm actually gonna be rating games. Like I said, I've been rating games so far based on the time period they came out in. I think that is, when you rate games, there's two important things. There's two ways of doing it primarily. There's more than two, but there's two primary ways of looking at it. Do you rate how good the game is based on the time it came out, or do you rate it based on how it is to play now? Because that affects Skyrim very much. Because I think for the time it came out, I think, again, it defined open world gaming for generations, even though the combat was kind of stiff. But if you were to rate it now, I think there's so many other open world games that have, including Horizon, that have way better combat, way more interesting ideas for the kind of side content that you can do in them, better visuals, because the game is kind of, I mean, it looked good, I guess, from when it came out, but it's kind of muddy, and I don't really like the art style. That's maybe more a personal thing. But I think for the time it came out, I feel confident saying that Skyrim, defined open world games for generations for a reason. The Last of Us, I've not played. Breath of the Wild, I think, is kind of the modern version of Skyrim in terms of its influence on modern open world games. It's basically the same reasons. It has its issues like Skyrim that probably will irk people years from now, but I think Breath of the Wild is going to hold up better than Skyrim does. If you're curious, like I said, I think there's just been so many open world games that have done like combat and side activities, story even better than Skyrim. But I think at the time it was kind of, in terms of open world games, there wasn't really anything that could compete with it. Wind Waker, yeah, masterpiece. Can't go wrong with Wind Waker. Ocarina of Time, for its time, funny jokes. I think Ocarina of Time goes there. I think if it was now, I don't even think it belong on the list. But because I really don't like replaying that. My personal opinion is that the game has not aged particularly gracefully. Uncharted, I think can go. I think any of the Uncharted games are masterpieces, really. The Walking Dead, if this is just season 1, yes, but it's a little weird to rate The Walking Dead because I think it's very difficult, because to me, I feel like games like The Walking Dead kind of tread a line where they're not like a film or a TV show, obviously, but they're almost not games. They're like an interactive experience. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a really weird example, but you know how like old DVDs, you could like sometimes like, there'd be extras thing and like you could pick what scene you would see next on your remote. That's an interactive experience, but would you call that a game? I don't know. Or a visual novel. Would you call a visual novel a game? Depending on what's involved. Usually I would say probably not. But I wouldn't even say that as a knock on the game. I think it's just difficult. Like, would I call The Walking Dead a game, or would I call it more of an games are an interactive experience. That's probably a poor way of putting it. An interactive narrative is probably a better way of putting it. We'll leave it there for now, because I think most people would say it counts. Witcher 3, I haven't played yet. I've been playing Witcher 1. I've been streaming it. I'll probably stream it again next week. Yakuza. Oh, does this guy have every Yakuza game here? I don't think that these choices for Yakuza games really make sense. I would say Yakuza 7 or 0, absolutely, but Yakuza Kiwami 2, definitely not. Yakuza Kiwami 1, I don't know about a list of greatest games of all time. It's pretty fun, but I think it goes here. Ooh, I like this song. I was gonna click the tab, but I don't want to show up anything. Well, how much longer do I have before it loops? Let me check. Oh, we got plenty of time, okay. Anyway, Yakuza Kiwami's still pretty good, but it really doesn't reach like any of these. It's decent. Relative to these other games. Still a super good game. If you've never played Yakuza, definitely play 0 and then Kiwami. Yakuza 4, though, I have a personal soft spot for Yakuza 4. I do, but I don't think it belongs on this list. My main reasoning for that is that it is a game that feels like it's at its best and only mostly good when it's doing this blockbuster action stuff where you got 4 heroes banding together doing a bunch of crazy nonsense. It has some of the best set piece moments. It has some of the best karaoke actually in the game or in the series. But it feels to me like, for one thing, because there's 4 characters, they're all a little bit hamstrung with their kits, because there's 4 characters and they don't give each one as much because you don't have as much time with them to really, learn how to play the character and develop your skill set. So that feels, I would rather have 2 characters like like Yakuza 0 that have much more going on with them. But also the story just feels like it's like a blockbuster, but there's not, a lot of the story beats just don't feel realistic even by Yakuza standards, and they just miss a lot of character moments to me. And basically I just think the story is made way too hectic with 4 main characters, and it doesn't tie together neatly at the end at all. I like the final boss fight just as a pure blockbuster action sequence, but in terms of a story, because remember, like, the main story is usually not insane at all times. But Yakuza 4 feels like they took that insanity and put it into the story a little bit. A little bit. Not too much, but like even that little bit just feels like it just... Eh. It's still really good though, I like it. It just has been one of the Yakuzas that hasn't aged as gracefully. But that's also because it's like the second oldest that hasn't been remade, so it's kind of cheating, but yeah. But in terms of the side content you can do in the game, I think it's probably one of the best Yakuza games for the side content. Apex Legends, definitely not going on there. Celeste, I don't think I can personally remove my bias, so I really don't like Celeste. I think the story and the character stuff is really cool, but I don't think that I don't really like it at all. But I think I'm just biased. What is this, Chrono Trigger or is this Chrono Cross? I haven't played either anyway, so whatever. There's Dishonored, there you go. See, Dishonored for me is a little tricky though, because I feel like part of the appeal of Dishonored is supposed to be replays, which I feel like your overwhelming amount of average players doesn't do. And if your game is mostly selling people on replaying it, depending on what kind of game it is, I don't think that's a good recipe for the most success that you could have. But I still think even with that, it belongs here. It's a great stealth game, but for its time, and again, if we're doing it by now, I would knock it down a little bit. The reason I would knock it down slightly for modern times for Dishonored is because I think from what I've played, I don't know if Dishonored 2 is better. Wait, who's messaging me? Sorry, let me see if this is important. Give me a second. Sorry. Basically what I was going to say is like I haven't finished Dishonored 2, but it's not even just Dishonored 2, but like a lot of stealth games have this issue, or not stealth games, a lot of games that have choices where you can kill someone or be a pacifist from that era of games are too binary in what they give you for options. For example, Mass Effect can be like that sometimes, definitely. Mass Effect's morality system is a little outdated, but it's not as extreme as most games. It was ahead of its time in terms of like not being straight evil or good. But a good example of this is both Deus Ex Human Revolution and Dishonored 1. Pacifist gives you very little options to work with. It's maybe just... Well, Human Revolution has the PEPS gun, but yeah, you don't really get to use it much. It's mostly just the tranquilizer rifle, the stun dart, and just knocking people out from behind. There's not too much else. Almost everything else is lethal. When it comes to lethal options versus non-lethal, both of these games have this notorious thing of having 80% of everything fun be lethal. But in Mankind Divided, I think, for Deus Ex, and in Dishonored 2, you have a lot more tools to play around with if you don't want to have a lethal playstyle. And to me, that's a lot more important considering you're supposed to... Like, they really advertise this to you as, like, you know, like two very distinct choices that are equal, but they don't feel equal in the original games, but they do feel like much more in-depth in their sequels. So I think it's an interesting conversation to have. That being said, I still didn't finish Dishonored 2, so I can't speak to that. I'm just saying conceptually, it's not even just those games. There's other games that have given you more options to approach non-lethal play styles, which I think is, you know, it affects probably half the players probably play non-lethal, if not more. So you have to consider that. It does matter. Firewatch doesn't really belong on there. For Honor, Inside, I don't think is good enough to really... Inside is another tough one because it's like... Sorry, you can't see it. Inside is like a very interpretive piece of art, so I'm not really sure how to feel about this one. But I didn't even finish playing it, so I shouldn't even rate it. Binding of Isaac, I feel like from what little I played of Binding of Isaac, I feel confident putting it as great. I feel like it's a genre-defining game in terms of roguelikes. I think it does a lot of things well. Again, that's another game where replaying it is fine because of what it is. I don't really have too many complaints about Binding of Isaac. That kind of game usually isn't my cup of tea, but it's definitely one of the better roguelikes. Star Wars, I don't know if Jedi Order really belongs on here. I think it's very good, but it has its issues for sure. I don't think it belongs on here. Journey? I think Journey is a very, 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 very simple game, but it is so impactful at what it does in terms of really just everything it does. And it's a very accessible game too. You could play that game really easily, even if you're not good at games at all, which I think is something that's very important. I think, okay, calling it accessible is different. It's a very easy game, so you can play it no matter your skill level. Accessibility and difficulty are two different things, which I've gone over before, but yeah. It's a great piece. Journey to me is one of those games where sometimes I get a little cynical about calling games art, depending on, like, for certain games, but like, I'm not saying games can't be art. Let me backtrack on that. I think some people get a little too obsessed with calling games art and not just, like, I don't know how to put it. Journey's a game I can look at and definitively say this is art. And I think there's plenty of games like that. But I think sometimes people push the envelope of what games really are art. But I also don't think that there's anything wrong with something not being art. Like I always say, golf, to me, I don't consider it a sport, but I don't think it's any less off for it. I don't think esports are sports either, but I think it's just a strict definition thing. I think esports are a fantastic hobby or even profession to engage in that has a lot of merit to it. There's money in it. And you don't need to try to call it a sport to try to almost justify your interest in it to the average person. You know, I think a lot of people feel like if it's considered more of a sport, it'll be more socially acceptable. But to that I'd say, I think that you're just shoehorning it into a category that it doesn't belong in, and that, you know, we'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. And I think we pretty much are by now, I think. If not, we're close. So that's good. Left 4 Dead 2... I think Left 4 Dead 2, fantastic game. You kind of need your friends, I think, for this to be a masterpiece. But I think that that's totally okay. Limbo? I don't know where to put this. This one I think I can put in great. Because... I mean, it's just such a... This game, like, defined what people thought of in terms of indie games for a very long time, I think also for a reason. I think for the same reasons as Journey. It's a very good artistic piece of entertainment. And in terms of the gameplay, even though they're both very simple, they're both very effective. They're not, like, super complicated, but they're also not very long games. And I think the shorter your game, the less complex you need to make any given thing. So... And they both tell a story with, like, no dialogue, which is super interesting to think about. They both tell a story with very simple visuals. There's no dialogue whatsoever. There is like, things are told to you through text sometimes, but in terms of, like, dialogue, there's nothing in either game. So I think that's fair. Mordhau, I don't think that I don't think it belongs on the list. I'm not really, actually, I'm just gonna put it here. I'm not really comfortable rating it. Outlast, I'm terrible with horror games. Please tell me this isn't Getting Over It. Sorry, you can't see it. But Getting Over It here. That's kind of pushing it. I definitely haven't played Outlast. I would do that if I got 3 trillion subscribers, but I don't think that's going to happen. Actually, I would do that, like, for, like, 150 followers on Twitch, maybe. Maybe Outlast. Maybe a slightly less scary game than Outlast. Like a baby horror game. That's besides the point. Getting Over It, though, I wouldn't put it on here. Yeah, these are not an insult to any of these games. It's just I don't feel they're appropriate on a list of best games of all time. I don't think any of these are particularly appropriate for that. I feel very confident looking at this saying that that's true. A lot of these really don't belong here. Papers, Please? I have played it a little bit, but not enough to judge it. Resident Evil 7? I haven't played it. Alright, you can see it. Roblox is a developing game, doesn't count. Rocket League is kind of the same thing. Beat Saber, I feel like Beat Saber, but I haven't played it. But Beat Saber to me seems like it's probably one of the best VR experiences of all time. But I just haven't played it. Sims 4, haven't played it. Infamous, I meant to play Infamous, but I forgot. I just realized. I want to get a PS4 or a PS5 capture card, actually, at one point. That would be pretty fun. They put Persona 5 Royal. Sorry, I shouldn't point that out. I'm spoiling people. I haven't played it. What is this game, though? I don't know what that game is. But there's no way I played it. Spider-Man? I feel like it goes in gray, because it does better open world stuff than Horizon Zero Dawn, for sure. But I just wouldn't put it at this tier. I couldn't put it into words, but I just wouldn't put it at this tier. But it's a fantastic game. If you haven't played Spider-Man and you have a PS4 or PS5, 100% play that game. I would call it a must-play for that console. If nothing else, because, you know, maybe you're tired of open world games, but just, you know, like, it's a cliche, the whole feeling like Spider-Man thing, but it's totally true. And like, not only that, how often do you get a good, you know, like Spider-Man or even superhero game? It's really just the Arkham games that I know of. I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of them. But yeah, Spore. I'm not ready. Wii Sports. See, Wii Sports is weird because it was a game that came with the Wii, so it's not, and because it was free, so it's like, I'm not really comfortable rating it on its own. I don't think that this is something that you can really rate because you don't have to. It just comes with the Wii. It's like basically like a free app. You know, Bully, I haven't played. This game I haven't finished yet. Is this Human Revolution or is this Mankind Divided? If this is Human Revolution, I would put it. I'm not comfortable putting it up. Yeah, I am. This game is freaking fantastic. For similar reasons as Dishonored 1, but I think that Deus Ex has held up a lot better, in my opinion, than Dishonored 1 has. Just a super amazing narrative-driven, like shooter RPG game, sort of, that I think set the groundwork for a lot of games within that genre to this day. Granted, Deus Ex 1 set the groundwork for this game, but I think this really took that formula and refined it without missing what makes the series what it is. Factorio, I've never played. I've been told that it is a mistake to play that game because you will get addicted very quickly, so that's kind of funny. Have I had dinner yet? I don't think I have. Oh well, what are you gonna do? I'll have it after the stream, probably in like an hour. Fallout 4, haven't played it. Oops, I haven't played it. Can you see that? What is this, Fallout? That's Fallout 3, I haven't played that either. Fallout 76. I'm not rating that anyway. Far Cry 5, I haven't played it. Is this Blood Dragon? Blood Dragon is godlike. Now, I am putting it above the original Far Cry 3, but I think this has held up a lot better just because of the humor and because of the way that the game works. Has aged much better, because, like, I don't know how to put it, but it just doesn't fall into the same tropes that, like, Far Cry 3 kind of created. It's just so goddamn fun. Blood Dragon's so funny. I don't think it really belongs on a list like this too much because of, like, it's just it's like a standalone kind of like expansion thing, but I think it's amazing. What is Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne? I never got through Warcraft 3, and now I can't play it even if I wanted to because of the Reforged thing. Well, the original version, so, you know, I haven't played it though, so. CSGO? I can't rate that. Gmod? You can't rate that either. Guitar Hero 3? Guitar Hero? Godlike. I love Guitar Hero. I never actually owned a guitar, but I played that game at so many different people's houses so many times I might as well have owned the damn thing. I love Guitar Hero. It's such a unique, you know, gaming experience that, you know, we take for granted now, but like back then, this concept, like having its own controller, being like a rhythm game, you know, really feeling like you're playing the guitar. It got a lot of people into instruments in the first place, actually, you know, which is super cool to see. It's always cool to see, you know, these kinds of games really get people into a different kind of hobby. You know, that's always fantastic. You know, there's people to this day that say, yeah, I started playing guitar because Guitar Hero made me feel great. Obviously, it's a lot harder to actually play it, but, you know. Heyday? I have no idea what that is. I have not played that. Hitman. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second, I gotta sneeze. Move the mic. I don't want you to see it. I'm shy like that. You gotta keep the sneeze subscriber goal. You never know when you're gonna need it. Hitman, though, I've never played. Hotline Miami? I think it's very good. I think it's about on the same par as these games. If it's the first game. I think the sequel has some issues too, but I think it's another one of those simple games that has a very weird, compelling, it's a very gross but compelling story behind it. That really just gets you going like, what is going on here? And it doesn't answer questions for you directly really until the end of the game. But even then, there's still some questions. It's a super simple, you know, top-down kind of game where you just go in there, you beat some ass, but if you get shot even once, you are dead. And, you know, when you press restart, you're right back in the action. Sort of similar to something like Super Meat Boy. Those games that kind of like are very simple, but like hard, but also let you restart instantly with no downtime are always appreciated. Because it can feel like a waste of time if that's not what happens. What is this game? Is this Just Cause? I think that's Just Cause. I haven't played Just Cause 2. Kingdom Hearts 3 does not belong on this list. That one I'm slightly biased on, but it does not belong on this list. I have not played either of the Life is Strange games. Metro I have not finished. Oh, you still can't see it, goddamn. We're really getting there though, we're almost done. Mountain Blade I have not played. Nier Automata I have played, but this is going to be extremely hard for me to remove my bias from. I think if I remove my bias, I would put it... I think even if I remove my bias, I think it goes here. I think if I was biased, I would put it here, but I'm not going to get into it because I don't, I just have my own gripes of the game, but most people don't, so I'll leave it at that. I don't know what that is, but there's no way I played that. Path of Exile. That's a developing game. I do not know what this is. Is that Plants vs. Zombies? I think for tower defense it was pretty good. I put it in good, sure. Postal 2, I don't know much about that game. Prototype, I've never played it. Rainbow Six Siege, again, developing game, I'm not going to count that. Saints Row 2, I never played, couldn't say. Sniper Elite, I doubt it belongs on the list, but I have not played it. Stalker, I haven't finished it, unfortunately. Battlefront 2, okay, this is a multiplayer game, but it's older. This game, to me, is one of the best, like, multiplayer, like, shooter games of all time. Of all time. Just this, like, being able to be a stormtrooper that can actually hit things is nice. Yeah. But also being able to, like, like, build up kills and stuff and points, and then be able to play as, like, the Droidekas or the actual Jedi or the Sith, being able to play as those and, like, crush people, but having to earn it, too, so it wasn't totally unbalanced, was super fun. Oh my god, it's an experience that most other games can't match. Battlefront 2 is really weird, though. Or, the reboot Star Wars Battlefront 2. This one is super weird. It's definitely not going there. Because the launch of it was horrible and shouldn't even belong on here. But if you play it now, which I have since it came out, I think it's pretty good. I don't know if it belongs on this kind of list, but I think you could make the argument. I'm not going to put it here because I think it's possible, but I'm not really comfortable rating it because it's also too recent that it stopped getting updates. What is it, Super Hot? I haven't played it. I've seen a lot of gameplay, but I never played it. System Shock 2, never played it. Undertale, I know it's a bit circle jerk, but Undertale goes a masterpiece just because, like, I think I can't say anything about Undertale that everybody else hasn't said already. It's for all of those reasons that I think it belongs there, 100%. I don't think that there's any real debate for that. What is this, the original Pokemon? For their time? Yes. For their time, absolutely. These are the first in the series. Super cool idea, executed very well. You can't go wrong with those games at the time they came out. Is this the new Animal Crossing? New Horizons? I think it's good, but it feels unfinished to me in a way that New Leaf did not. Or any of the other older Animal Crossings. I think with some support, it'll bump up, like, higher and higher. But I think for now, it's still, like, some of the greatest games. I wouldn't say some of these games are the greatest games of all time. I think only some of them are. But, I just thought it would be funny to do. Just go through some random games and just rate them. Black and White 2. Ooh, I never actually played. I haven't finished. This is the only mainline Pokemon games I have not played and finished. I have it on my 3DS. It's, like, back there. You can't really see it with the camera, but it's back there. I'll get to it eventually, but... Cuphead? I think Cuphead's pretty good, but it's carried a little bit by the visuals, but... I'll put it up here. Cuphead is a fantastic game. It's a little short, but it's a fantastic game. Obviously, I can't say anything about the visuals and the music that not everybody else has as well. But just in terms of the gameplay, it's usually very clear what's going on, especially because the art, like, so there's so much exaggeration in the characters that it's usually really obvious what's going to happen to you, and if you get hit, it is your fault. It's actually on the easier side of that genre of games too, so it's a little easier for people to handle than some of those other games that have ridiculous high barriers of entry. I mean, something like Contra too. Like Contra, like a lot of those games are like older and like they're kind of quarter eaters. So if you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, and it's just like, eh. These days, eh. Diablo 2? I haven't played. Death Stranding? Ooh, this is going to be a tough one. I think Death Stranding is amazing. I think it is a game that a lot of people didn't like and still really, really dislike because it feels very boring. But I think, I think those people just don't understand that there's a whole genre of games like Death Stranding called walking simulators where you don't really do much, but it's very, very important that you have the atmosphere right and what game mechanics are there make sense and they improve your experience. And it feels like, to me, Death Stranding has done that perfectly. And I think the story obviously does leave a little bit to be desired, but I do think, like, the whole mystery of the BTs and the world itself, the world building, as crazy as it is, really, really, really cool. And it makes you nervous all the time when you're delivering your packages that not only could you fall, but there's going to be these BTs, there could be these mules, so you always have to be on your feet, literally and figuratively. The whole thing with like helping each other out, like people that you never see, with a social network, like the bridge building and stuff like that. It's not a new concept, but it's executed very well in Death Stranding. It's a game that's much better if you play it with an online connection. I think it's just amazing. I think because of the story beats, sometimes the actual story, not world, the story beats, it doesn't really go up here. Also because some of the gameplay, they let you engage the BTs and actually fight them a little bit too quickly, where they feel like a threat, but not for as long as I would have liked. And it feels too easy to escape them too. I never really got fully caught by the BTs the whole time I was playing it, and I'm bad at stealth games, so like that, they could have done a little bit better with that, but I really don't have much issues with it other than that. I don't even know what this is though. That's going on not played. Grounded? That game's not even officially out yet, right? Just Dance? No. NBA? You're gonna put FIFA and NBA here? The older ones, sure, but not the newer ones. Persona 5 Royal? Also, this one just goes to the same reasons as Persona 5. It's just Persona 5, but better. Really nothing worse. Sly Cooper? Ooh, I beat one Sly Cooper game, but I don't know what it was. But because I can't remember, I'm going to assume I haven't played it. I don't think that's fair. Sorry, you couldn't see it. Spec Ops: The Line. This game, for what it did in terms of story and for the time period it came out in, both as like a piece of historical or political commentary, as well as the kinds of games that were coming out around the same times, like Call of Duty. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game, even though, well, the gameplay is a little boring, but like it's almost boring on purpose as a bit of a commentary, which I find kind of interesting. And there's a huge argument that you could have whether that making a game design element slightly less boring on purpose to prove a point, like to be more like Call of Duty in this case, is like actual good design or not. I think it is when you do it particularly well, but you have to be very careful about it. But I'm not going to say too more about that because I'll spoil it, and the narrative for this game is extremely important. If you've never played Spec Ops: The Line before, do not look up the story. If you want a solid but very serious story-driven, like FPS or not FPS, third-person shooter game, definitely play Spec Ops: The Line. Definitely play Spec Ops. Definitely. I think it has multiplayer, but that's not really the point. Valorant, developing, doesn't count. Crusader Kings, I've never played. Divinity, I've played a little, but not enough to feel comfortable rating. Oh, right, you can't see it. Dead or Alive 6, that game, that's not even the best Dead or Alive game from what I've been made aware. I don't think that does not belong there. I don't even need to put that in have not played. I can tell you 100% doesn't belong there. Dragon Quest 11, I haven't played that much. Dying Light, I haven't played. Fall Guys, I love, but it doesn't belong because it's developing. I don't know what that game is, so I'm gonna assume I haven't played. Oh, it's Half-Life Alyx. Yeah, I haven't played that. Last of Us Part 2, I haven't played. Very controversial, but I just haven't played it. Metal Gear Solid 1? Right? Or is it just Metal Gear? Is that just Metal Gear? No, I think it's Metal Gear Solid. I haven't played it, though. Oblivion, haven't played it. Payday 2. This is sort of like in the same boat as this. But I think it's been out long enough that I could just have not played. Persona 3, I think is amazing, but well, for the time, even for the time period it came out, it was very unusual to not be able to control your party members, and some people feel like that enhances the narrative. But in terms of your connection to the other characters, because they're making decisions for themselves literally, and you can't make decisions for them in terms of their moves either, except in the portable version. But I think that it was an interesting idea, but I think that it was a mistake at the end of the day, and I think that's what prevents it from being a masterpiece, because that can very negatively impact your game experience. But I think in terms of narrative, absolutely, probably one of the best story in the series. Persona 4 Golden specifically, yes, masterpiece. I think even Persona 4 normally. I think it was one of the best JRPGs of all time. I think it hasn't aged entirely gracefully, but mostly it has actually held up well. It's mostly the graphics that haven't, but you don't have control over that. Rust, I'm not gonna rate that. Saints Row 3, does it really belong? I would put it down here with Yakuza Kiwami. It's on the very much lower end of games that I really enjoy and I think were really good, but Titanfall 2, it's another game where the multiplayer is more important. But if we're just talking the campaign, I would put it here. If we ignore the price of the game at the time it came out, it's not good for a $60 campaign, but it is good if you get it for $10-15 or less. Absolutely, if you've never played the Titanfall 2 campaign, play it. 100%, no doubt. I don't even know what that is, so I haven't played it. Warzone, can't really rate that. Hyperdimension Neptunia probably does not belong on here, but I haven't played it. Shovel Knight, I think it can hang out with the big boys as well. I think it's amazing. I think it's a return to a classic kind of 2D platform, which so many games say that they are. But it's so hard to get the feel just right, and it's hard to put into words, which is why it's hard to make, because you can't tell somebody exactly what you're looking for. Obviously, you want the 8-bit graphics or whatever and all that. Or really more 16-bit in Shovel Knight's case, I think. Maybe 32, I don't actually know. But it's so hard to get right. It gets it right across the entire board, both in terms of the game itself, but also the music that accompanies it. It feels like a game, like a Mega Man-esque game that came out 25, 30 years ago, but without the hang-ups of the older games. Because it's way easier, in a good way. But it's not holding your hand either. It feels like a spiritual successor to Mega Man in a lot of ways. In the best ways possible, without any of the bad. What is this game? This looks so familiar. What is this? Hold on, let me see how much time I have left on the playlist. I might have to loop. It's got 26 minutes on it. I think that's good. Boo. There we go. I don't know what that is. I haven't played it. I don't think this is the Dragon Ball RPG Kakarot. I don't think it belongs in here, but I haven't played it, so I can't be sure. Dead by Daylight. Develop the game. Is this DuckTales? I think DuckTales is. Oh, but I haven't played it, right? I haven't actually played it. Untitled Goose Game probably doesn't belong. Just because it's it's kind of hard to judge a game like that too. Hollow Knight. This one's gonna be really rough. It's between these two for me. No, you know what? I feel confident saying that. I don't think Hollow Knight does almost anything wrong. Almost anything. It has its flaws, but they're very, very minor and in a lot of cases hard to notice. I think there's some issues with some of the DLC in particular, with the Pantheon, but the Pantheon's meant to be very hard, and a lot of the complaints I have to do with that. I think it just belongs here. I think it's also a little tricky to judge something based on DLC, so I don't think it has really many flaws. Batman Arkham Knight. I did buy that. I'm probably going to stream that, but I haven't played it yet. I do know some of the spoilers, though. What is this game? I don't know what this is. So I'm going to assume that I haven't played this. I haven't played this. If I can't recognize it, I don't know what it is. Oh, this is CSGO. Wait, this is Counter-Strike. This is just regular Counter-Strike. I didn't even realize that. Right? Yeah, that's just regular Counter-Strike. No More Heroes 2 I haven't played. I don't know what that is, but I haven't played it. Subnautica, definitely haven't played it. Super Seducer. Oh my god, why would you put this game here? Oh no, don't even do that. Don't even do that. This is Torchlight, but is this? Oh no, that's Warhammer. I'm stupid. I haven't played that. Yakuza 5, I also, for the very similar reason as Yakuza 4, would not put that on there. No More Heroes, I haven't played the original. Ghost of Tsushima, ooh, this one's an interesting one. Because a lot of my complaints have to do with PS4 performance and not the game itself. I think it's very good. I think it is better than Horizon, so it's going to go here. But I think it has some issues that Horizon has as well, where they have like 50 billion fox dens that are very boring to go get all of them for, and there's a little bit too much open world tropes, but only a teensy bit. You can get almost everything in the game that you want at a rate where like for me personally, I was like, I wish there was more to do. I wish there was more to do. You know, but some stuff like the fox dens was like kind of boring, to be honest. But most of my issues are with the PS4 performance. I think some of the combat could have been tightened up. I seem to recall the camera being kind of spotty at times. But I think other than the performance, the camera, and some of the open world activities being a little boring because of the amount of them, I think it was fine. You know, Bayonetta 1 I've actually never played, but I should. Ori, is this Ori and the Blind Forest or Ori the sequel to Ori? If this is the sequel to Ori, I would put that here. If it was the original Ori, I would put it like down here. But because I think the original Ori is just kind of bland. But I think the combat that they put in this Ori sequel is super fantastic. I love it. The world is beautiful. The music is amazing and haunting a lot of the time too. Gareth Coker, I believe, did a lot of it. Did some of the soundtrack for the Ruined King game too. You know, because I play a lot of League, so. That's got some good soundtrack there too. I don't know if he did all of it though. The devs are kind of stuck up about this game, which is unfortunate, but I do think I put it at masterpiece though. No, it goes in amazing because like these two games are very similar, and I think Hollow Knight and these games all kind of do things that are better than Ori, but not by too much. What is Call of Duty World War? Hell no, it doesn't belong. It's too recent anyway. I don't know what this is. I'm going to put has not played. Cyberpunk. Ooh, this is another one that's a touchy subject. Because it's like a game that, like, I said you have to rate games based on, like, the time they came out. And the time it came out was pretty buggy if it's not right now. So, dude, the problem is, it's not going there for sure. Do I talk about the game being buggy? Because I think because the game was so half-baked in terms of being buggy and stuff like that, I don't think it should be a contender at all. I don't think we should even... Well, yeah, but sometimes you have to remove that stuff when you're talking about, like, just the quality of the game, period. So if I just rate it, I would put it down here. I think, even if we're including the bugs, it's still... I think it's, like, between good and decent. It does lean good. But... the bugs, and so much missing content definitely mean that it's not what it could be. If it worked 100% of the time, I would still just put it like here, maybe up here. I would put it at maybe grade. I think it's a very good, competent, well, not competent. I think when it works, it's a really good game. I really enjoy it. I think it's one of the better RPGs I've ever played. But I have to put it here because of the bugs. Doom Eternal. I'm gonna say it. I think Doom Eternal is better than Doom 2016. I think it's a step up because it takes what Doom 2016 did and pushes it so far forward in terms of, like, I was like playing the game, like, you can really do things like this even with an arcade shooter, because an arcade shooter is usually very crazy, but you know, you got the flamethrower, you got the grenade, these shoulder grenades. You have all these moving parts and elements to combat that weren't in Doom 2016 that are almost like overwhelming in a sense. But I think because, there's difficulty sliders, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's one of those things where, your average player may not take advantage of all of those 100%, which is fine. And they'll be able to beat the game anyway. And then I think the more advanced players will be able to do some crazy nonsense with all this toolkit that they've given you. And they also restrict your ammo quite a bit. So they encourage you to really mess around with a lot of different weapons and be good at them. And encourage creativity, basically, in a lot of different ways in Doom Eternal. It's a fantastic game. I love Doom Eternal. That was my game of the year for 2020, I think. If I'm not counting Persona Royal, because I do consider that sort of cheating in a way since it's a remake. So, other than that, Doom Eternal, absolutely. Oh my god, play that game if you see it on sale. 100%. Actually, it's permanently on Game Pass. If you just go play Game Pass right now, you can just play it. You might be able to play the DLC too, actually, now that I think about it. That might be how I play the DLC, but because I haven't played it yet. But I'll probably play that on stream too. Actually, I think I wanted to this week, but I forgot. Final Fantasy VII Remake? I haven't played that either yet, so I don't know. Hades? I think it's too recent for me to make a judgment call on Hades. I do think that it's a fantastic roguelike and probably the best in that genre that I've played, other than maybe Binding of Isaac, which, to be fair, I don't think it's better in my own personal taste, but I think if I'm removing bias, it might be. But yeah. Hearthstone still developing. Hitman. Didn't this just come out? Hitman 3? I think that's too recent. That just came out. What is this? I can't read this. I don't know what that says, so I probably haven't played it. Marvel's Avengers? Nope. What is this? I can't even read this. Wasteland 3. Oh, I didn't play it. And Yakuza 7? I'd put it here. It was probably one of the best RPGs. It's one of the better turn-based RPGs I've ever played. The combat itself could be a little finicky sometimes, but the setting was extremely creative. It was a very bold new direction for the Yakuza franchise, especially because it was not that genre at all before. Though there's still the Judgment games if you want to play the action games. Those are still fantastic as well. Judgment should have been included on this, honestly. Maybe Lost Judgment, but yeah. But yeah, that's the whole list. That one took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So you can see I haven't played a lot of these. I would love to play most of these, or not most, but a lot of these games someday. But these I don't think I can rate because they're either insulting to have on the list, like FIFA or NBA, or I feel like they're just clearly not up to the par with some of these other games. And these are the ones I didn't play. These games, again, these are like multiplayer games or like mods or something that I just don't think you should rate in the same breath as these kinds of games. I don't think so. Unless they're old, like Street Fighter. But Street Fighter I haven't played, so, And then these couple are just a little too recent that I think I could rate them, but they're just too recent. Some of them are just as recent, but it's just so much more obvious, like the quality of the game, that it doesn't really matter. Like Persona 5 Royal, it doesn't really matter. You can tell. Where's Mass Effect 3, though? I know people didn't like the ending, but you put Mass Effect, but you didn't put 1 or 3. I think that's very questionable. This is a very questionable list of games to include, but I think that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making that. I love talking about, what makes me like and dislike games a lot, as you can tell, because I did that for an hour, just screaming into the void. Anyway... Now, for the next one, pizza toppings. I don't recognize half of these. I just kind of put it up, and now I'm realizing I haven't tried more than half of these. Huh. Alright, well, this one's going to be controversial, but you know what? Okay, so let's ignore, cost and health risk here, because, stuff like bacon, for me, I don't have, because it makes something a lot unhealthier. So I usually don't put bacon on a lot of my stuff because I feel like a lot of stuff like pizza tastes fine on its own, and just to cut back on health stuff, I don't do it. But except on bacon, egg, and cheese, I love bacon, egg, and cheese. In fact, I might make a ham, egg, and cheese tomorrow, but not bacon. But that's besides the point. But bacon, I feel like bacon goes really well with pizza. I think it's just more of a matter if you really want to have the health risk of eating bacon, not so much whether you want to put it on pizza. Is this steak? I feel like steak would go just fine with pizza. Oh wait, no, I've had steak on pizza. It's like, you know, bread, cheese, marinara, and steak. You know, it's like having a, you know, it's like almost having like a sandwich at that point. I don't see anything wrong with that. Peppers on pizza, I think if they're grilled, they can be good. I don't think raw peppers are very good. I think pepper flakes can be fine too, but I don't know if they're differentiating pepper flakes with just like regular peppers, but I think grilled peppers can be fine. Broccoli, I've never tried. So I'm going to put a tier below here. Add a row below. Why are there kids screaming in this song? What the heck? Why are y'all screaming? Shut up. Alright, I'm going to need to loop it in a sec. And boop. There we go. Alright. Oh, let me see. Broccoli, I have no opinion on. So I'm just going to put no opinion. Broccoli, going there. What is this? I don't know what this is. Is this Parmesan cheese? Parmesan's pretty good. I don't think it's amazing, actually, because I feel like you're putting cheese on something that's still a lot of cheese. I think it depends on the quality of the Parmesan, to be honest with you. I don't think cheap Parmesan's going to cut it. So I think, you know, regular Parmesan's fine. Are these tomatoes? Am I stupid? Huh. I don't know what that is. Chicken? Chicken's good. Grilled chicken especially is good. Can't go wrong. Corn? I can't see that, but I don't really have an opinion. What is this? Whoops, why did it go over there? What is this? I actually can't tell what that is. I don't know. Eggplant? No opinion. Oh my god, what's confusing? Mushrooms are actually fine. I like mushrooms. They're good. I don't know what some of these things are. Are these olives? I feel like black olives can be fine. These onions? Onions can be fine. Pepperoni? I think it really depends on the quality of the pepperoni. So I'm going to say it can be good, but I'm not a big fan. Pineapple? We're not going there. Oh, no. Oh. What are these? I don't know what some of these things are. Oh, this is sausage? Sausage is pretty good. I don't know what these are. So these are going to go in here, because I don't know what half of these are. That one was a lot quicker than the last one. Oh, wait. This one, I think we're going to skip. Give me one sec. I think we're going to skip the next one because it would take too long. Because I wanted to do Rapid Fire League Champions, but like just, you know, like super quick. But actually, I think that would be fun. This is an older list, though, so they are missing some newer champions. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, you know. Let me think. We'll do it. So, Aatrox, I think, is fine, middle of the road. Doesn't do anything particularly interesting, but nothing too weird either. But does feel like they did make him a little bit too similar to a character like Riven to really stand out on its own. Ari is good, but a little bit offensively bland at times with the way that she works. But, you know, her kit does function well and works together. Akali, I hate her design a lot. I think she has a lot of problems with the way that her mobility works, her shroud works, and I think that, well, I think they've done a little bit of a good job fixing her, but she has some way to go. Alistar, super simple. Don't think he does anything particularly bad. Well, I think if anything, he's a little bland, so he goes down, but, like, you know, other than that, I think he's fine. So C is going to be like, these are going to be like average designs. Amumu is fine, but definitely a little too ult-reliant, that they have fixed that in recent times, so I think he gets bumped up to B. Anivia, I think, is too focused on just making it to 6 and just wave clearing and just chunking you out with QEs to really be interesting. Annie, I think, is simple but very effective in what she does, good for new players. Aphelios, overly complex design that I think doesn't translate into as hard or interesting of a character as they were hoping. Ashe is another character that's very simple, but I think she's good, but I think the problem is her volley is too overbearing of an ability for her to feel like a champion that has a well-rounded kit. Aurelion, I really don't like, if we're talking about Aurelion historically, because he's historically a champion that just shoves you in and doesn't want to interact with you as much as possible in mid lane and just roam around, which I don't like. Azir, I think, is fine, but I still think he's a little bit too much of a champion that is a bit of a catch-all in terms of pro, and just the reason he's not played is just because he's nerfed a lot. Bard, I think, is a pretty cool design, but I think being so reliant on chimes can feel a little gimmicky at times, but I still think he's pretty good. Blitzcrank, I'm going to put here, actually, because I think he's one of those champs that's like a one-trick pony, but he's extremely good at what he does, and you know what you're getting out of Blitzcrank, the champion, but you don't know what you're getting out of the player. Brand, I think, is fine, but his kit is a little too well-suited to being an annoying-ass support, and I don't think he's a very healthy support. Braum, I think, is fine, but again, a little bit leans... Like, his kit works, but it leans a little bit too much on the bland side of things because he's kind of, like, team-reliant to get his stuns out, so it makes him a little bit more boring to play. Caitlyn is cool, but to me, I think she has issues with being balanced around just having a long-range auto-attack, which I think hampers a little bit of the rest of her design. Camille is too much of a catch-all champion, where she does kind of everything that you'd want out of a top lane kind of like damage character. I think they need to shave back on some elements of her kit, historically speaking, so that she can become a more balanced champion all around. Cassiopeia, I think, is pretty cool. She's one of the only DPS mages in the game like Azir, but I think she has a lot more defined weaknesses that make her more interesting than a character like Azir. Cho'Gath, I think Cho'Gath's cool, like, because he really fits the like huge, you know, like start small, get huge kind of like tank fantasy where you become unkillable and all that. A lot of his stuff is very telegraphed, so it's easy to get out of. I think Cho'Gath's pretty cool, so I think I'm gonna put him up at A. Corki, I think, is a bit of a mess of a kit where things don't feel like they flow together very reliably. They've done a little bit of a good job fixing that, but it still feels like all of his abilities just feel like abilities on separate characters that all got mishmashed onto one character. He does not feel like a cohesive character. Darius is like okay, but he's a little gimmicky, and it feels like the way that he's designed, a lot of characters simply can't lane against him, regardless of if the Darius is very good or not. Like, it's a lot of tanks, and I feel like because he's a little too binary in lane, as a result, he's just not that interesting, so he's going to go down here. Diana, I think these days is fine, but I think she's fine. I don't really have too many thoughts on Diana. If we're talking about Rework Mundo, I think Rework Mundo is pretty cool design. I think he goes up here. I don't really think he belongs here, but no particular issues. Draven, controversial. I think he belongs up here. No character, you know, in terms of... He is a character. He's Draven. Everything is Draven. His passive is super, you know, lower character appropriate. His kit is character appropriate. He needs to catch the axis to be a show-off. But it's a character that has a lot of depth and skill curve to him, but is very, very simple to understand when you're watching him and understanding him at a beginner's level, which I think is very important. I do think his passive is a little gimmicky, and I think they could try to shift it around a little bit so it's not as game warping, but in some ways, you know, it's Draven. He wants it to be game warping. Echo is also probably one of the best assassin designs in the game. I do think he has a little bit more safety than most assassins, which is a little annoying, but it comes at the cost of having a damage ultimate, so I think that's totally fine. Elise, I think, is cool by now. She used to be a very catch-all champion, but now she's just, you know, a cool form swap champion that, you know, does her thing. I think they could afford to maybe shift her in a different direction from being too jack-of-all-trades, but, yeah. Evelyn is okay, but I really don't like the concept of a champion being designed around being permanently stealth past level 6, but it's not as bad as it used to be, where she'd be down here, where she was stealth all the time from level 1. Ezreal, I think I'm going to put A. He would be S, but the problem with Ezreal is that he can abuse so many different items and stuff like that to play in a way that's unhealthy for the character that I don't really think he belongs in S. Fiddlesticks Rework belongs here. It's, you know, super fits the character, very balanced. Feels like the spirit of the old character, both in terms of kit, you know, like in terms of kit as well. And has a lot of high moments that really, like, you know, when you get out of a bush and get a 5-man ult as Fiddlesticks, it's like a feeling no other character really has. So he's very unique as well. Fiora, I put here because I think she just has too much going on with her kit. Too many, like, true damage, percent true damage, healing, all that, where each individual part feels weak because she has so many, where I feel like they could afford, like Camille, to shave off parts of her kit to buff up the others to make her feel more interesting. Fizz, I hate for the same reason. I think the way that his E works is not healthy for the game. That they have, actually, they fixed him a little bit, so he's not as bad. The cooldown on it isn't as egregious as it used to be, but I think otherwise he's fine. Galio, I think by now is fine. I don't have any particular thoughts on him. He used to be very catch-all, but like down here, but they really made sure that he doesn't build tank. They made sure he goes mid. They They made sure he has an interesting play pattern that feels fair for everybody. Gangplank, I feel like belongs up here. Gangplank is a very cool design where he has very sharp weaknesses, but like what Gangplank does with his barrels and stuff like that is super unique and usually interactive for both sides. He has plenty of matchups where it's not as interactive as it should be, which is why he's not here, but very interesting, unique design that I think brings a lot to the diversity of top lane playstyles. Garen, B, literally bread and butter champion, B. Does what Garen does, nothing particularly stupid, nothing particularly crazy, he's just Garen. Gnar, C, a little bit too catch-all of a champion for somebody that can't control his transforms, I would say. That's basically all I gotta say. Gragas goes in somewhere between A and B, but I think leans towards A because he is a little bit too catch-all of a champion with what he can do, but it mostly just leads to a lot of interesting builds and playstyles and stuff like that. It usually doesn't lead to him being too unhealthy for the game. He's usually just Gragas doing Gragas things, so I think he's fine. Graves, I think if you were ignoring the rework for Graves, he's fine. But I think when you consider who the old character was, I do disagree that they needed to push him in this direction. Hecarim, I think goes here. He's a little too. He's you know very you know. He's an AoE damage kind of like healing bruiser kind of thing. You know, he's got some team fight in him. He's a cool, you know, like cohesive character, but he's a little bit polarizing with the way that his ganks work, where even if you ward against him, he can be so fast that it doesn't matter. So that can be kind of annoying, but by the same token, it just means, like Evelynn, you should be warding his camps, not him. So he just demands a bit of a different warding playstyle. Heimerdinger, way too defensive and not... These two characters are both very defensive, and they don't have enough... They have too much of their kit backloaded into their defensive properties, I think, to be interesting enough characters proactively. Irelia, same thing as Akali, but they haven't fixed it. Just way too catch-all of a champion, does way too many things way too well. She has too many tools in a good player's hand to just snuff out anyone that she's even slightly better than, let alone her good matchups. Ivern, I think, is like fine. I think he's a very unique champion, but he can end up being a shield bot in a lot of games, which I don't think is very interesting. Janna, similar to Ivern, you know, simple enough character. I think she's like fine, mostly inoffensive these days, but again, can feel like a shield bot a lot of the time, which isn't, again, very interesting. Jarvan, I think, goes here too, because he's another character that's a classic jungler. You know, he's got a unique ult with the way that it works. It's not as unique as it used to be, but I think he's unique enough in what he brings with both his attack speed buff and his ult to be, you know, a simple enough design that's good. But I do think parts of him feel like they're kind of lacking overall, where some of his abilities, like his Q and E, don't feel like complete abilities on their own. Jax is kind of here because I don't know, Jax is just kind of a standard like late game scaling split pushing bruiser. Nothing really to say there. He's fine. Jace, I think, is mostly okay by now, but I think his kit is a little too easy to dominate with lane, but without being able to translate that into a mid to late victory. That I think he just belongs here. Jhin, perfect design. Don't even need to say it. It's Jhin. Jinx is mostly fine, but a little bit too reliant on really annoyingly long-range autos and resets to really feel like she should be higher. Her resets are very, very daunting to play against because you can be very ahead, but then Jinx gets a reset and you just die. Kai'Sa goes here. Way too catch-all of a kit. Don't like it. She can build way too many things in way too many scenarios to feel like it's healthy for the game. The kit itself is fine. The way that it functions with her evolutions is not. Kalista, probably the most offensively bad champion design of all time. Not only is she way too catch-all of a champion, but she's not even particularly fun to play as for the large majority of the player base. And I think she, more than almost any champion, needs a visual rework, or visual endgame. Well, not visual, like a rework. Karma, it goes here because she just has an offensively boring kit, especially because her ult is just a buff version of her main abilities. Her RE is like way too meta-defining to be allowed to keep existing. It has been nerfed and shifted around multiple times, but I think in her current state, she would probably need a rework as well. Karthus, I think, is cool. He's another champion that like is very unique with the way that he works, but also very fair in that his ult has an extremely long cooldown early. He has no mobility. His death passive can be good, but if you don't have good positioning to be in the middle of their team, it's not going to be very useful. So, yeah, I think he's fine. I just don't think he's like particularly cool design because I think sometimes his ult can be a little too game warping sometimes to feel healthy with all the CDR. Like, there's too much CDR in the game for his ult to feel as, like, risky to use sometimes. Kassadin is, like, here. He still feels like a champion that, like, just by him existing, it feels like a lot of mages just can't play the lane sometimes. Like, he just feels way too threatening to play against because of his late game potential. Katarina, too reliant on resets and gimmicks to really get ahead in a lot of games. I mean, what she does works, but I think she's too gimmicky. Kayle, I think, is too gimmicky with the way her level scaling works. I don't think that should be baked into the kit. I think it should be more a linear power, or like a smooth power curve rather than like spikes. I don't think that's as interesting to me. Kayn could have been cool, but the problem with Kayn boils down to he can be two different characters, but both of those characters feel sort of bland and uninteresting, and they don't feel like they add a lot to the game in an era where we have like over 100 champions, like 160. He doesn't feel like he's adding much other than just being two different characters potentially. Kennen, I mean, Kennen's like okay. He can be a very annoying shite top lane of being like an AP range poke champion that can be very hard to engage on. But I think by the same token, he usually has to work for his engages mid to late. So even though he's very annoying in lane with his design, I think, especially because his E doesn't give armor and MR by now, I think he's like fine. On the more annoying side, but he's fine. Kha'Zix, I think, is A tier actually, because while he has had his issues before, I think he's got a very interesting like evolution thing. I mean, Kai'Sa has it now too, but like he had it first. The way his evolutions work is unique. The isolation stuff, you know, very much fits his role as an assassin. Kha'Zix is, in every way, shape, and form, always been Kha'Zix doing Kha'Zix things, and it's mostly been fair. The only time it's not been fair is just when his damage numbers are too high. Kindred, I think by now, is sort of a decent design, but the problem with Kindred is that she doesn't play to her lore very well, with like where it feels like the wolf isn't really doing much most of the time. And on top of that, for a long period of time, she was only able to jungle because she just had really good base stats, which is not very interesting. And even now, they're struggling to really, I think, make this character live up to her fantasy. Kled, I think, is A. I think he is a very simple, like, he's a champ that, like, you know, Kled does, like, Draven, you know, Kled, like, everything about the character fits him and is healthy, like, mostly healthy for the game. He's a very, very, very aggressive character that wants to go in and in and in and in. And every part of his character plays to that while also being balanced. Like, him jumping off of Skarl can be annoying because he goes invuln, but it also means that his movement speed is terrible unless he's running directly towards you and playing aggressive. And it really creates this interesting dynamic thing where he can go to you and start fucking you up, but he's low health, so he may not get Skarl back. So I think it creates this interesting, like, character that plays on a knife's edge a lot of the time. Kog'Maw, I think, is, like, D, only because his entire kit is fine, but his passive is very, very unnecessary, like, does not fit the character at all whatsoever. And the Q and E, I think, are fairly bland and probably could afford to be better. LeBlanc I'm going to put here just because I feel like she's the definition of a character similar to someone like Ryze that has a kit that is tailor-made to be abused by pro players. So also sort of like Irelia. Like, these three characters are all like that, and I don't think they're healthy for the game, and I don't think that they should exist in their current state. Lee Sin, I think, is A by now because we've had, like, you know, power creep and stuff like that. I think he used to be down here for being overloaded. I think he's still fine the way he is now. The only reason he's not S is I do feel like he is too catered towards early game, where, like, his early game is so overbearing, his late game is so useless. I feel like they could afford to, like, shrink that gap a little bit. Leona, I think, is actually C tier because I think she is a very, she's like just a stock standard tank support, but I don't think anything in particular about her is very interesting at all. I think she's just the tank support that just does tank support things. I don't really see her any other way. Lysandra, I would say, goes C because she's just a little, she's got too many tools to just play too defensive and shut people down, like kind of like Malzahar, but not as annoying. She just exists as a pick to neutralize somebody else, which I think is okay to be a thing, but I think her ability to do that is a little bit too overbearing for the safety that she has, especially because, like, she has mobility that Malzahar does not. Which I think by now is fine. You know, good, solid, fun ADC that, you know, has some unique gameplay patterns, but not enough that makes him unique to really put him higher. Lulu also goes in probably B or A. I'd say A. It's just controversial, I know, because she could be very annoying, but I think she fits the definition of an enchanter very well, where most of the stuff she's doing is fair enough and makes sense. But she can be a little too polarizing to put an S, I would say. Like, she's very much she's your stock standard enchanter, but I think what she does as a stock standard enchanter is more interesting than what Leona does. The only reason Leona seems more interesting is because she's killing you, but I think if you only look at it on a surface level of whether things are dying, I don't think you know what you're talking about most of the time. Lux, she's fine. She's stock standard mage, you know? She has meaningful weaknesses. She has, unique aspects to her in the sense of, like, she can shield her allies with this AoE that most other mages don't have that kind of, like, AoE shield thing. But her ult, she's a little bit too tailored towards being uninteractive with the way that she plays for me to put her higher. Malphite's like just this brick that just exists to be an anti-AD champion. I think too much of his identity is rooted in just being the champion that you pick against armor AD stacking champions to be more interesting. And he's too ult reliant, I think. Malzahar goes in D or probably E. This character literally is only ever picked just to shut somebody down. Lysandra can at least engage sometimes and do other things, but Malzahar just exists to shut champions down, and his E and his W are the definition of uninteractable abilities. I mean, you can kill the minions, but not every champion is in a position to be able to do that without getting, hit for it. So he's staying down here, probably here, honestly. Maokai, I don't really have much of an opinion on Maokai. I think the way that he is now, he's here, but historically, I think he's like probably up here. He's a drain tank doing drain tank things. He brings some unique stuff to the table with the way his ult, even as slow as it is, can really cut people off. Mastery is probably just like, he's just down here. He's here. He's a melee carry, but he's way too feast or famine to be interesting, I think, is just the only thing. Misfortune, I think, is C tier just because a lot of her identity is in being a lane bully, but like, she also has this really disgusting team fight ult, and I feel like has a bit of an identity crisis. But I don't think she's very particularly bullshit with either of those, so I don't think she goes higher or lower. New Mordekaiser, I think, is B tier, but I think the problem with him is he's almost too simple, where so much of his damage is backloaded into very, very easy things to get off, like both his autos and his passive, that he could have afforded to have more dynamism in his gameplay patterns. Morgana, he goes in B tier. Again, she's a pretty simple support, got a simple game plan with catching people with Q, but the E can be, the E is unique, so she goes higher for that, but it's a little too polarizing, so she doesn't go higher. Nami, I think, goes in S tier. I think Nami is the least offensive enchanter in the game. She doesn't hyperscale people and make them disgusting bastards that you can never kill or do anything to, but she also has, some interesting stuff with her movement speed granting, which, other enchanters don't do except for maybe a single ability. She's a fun to play enchanter. She's encouraged to play a little more creatively, where she can set up her own E autos, like she can auto and then E herself and slow for the bubble. Her W encourages her to be in range to get more aggressive trades. She's a very cool champion. I don't have anything particularly wrong with her. Nasus is B tier just for being a standard top lane scaling champ, sort of interesting, but again, a little bit too polarizing in his good and bad matchups. Nautilus is down here for the same reasons as Leona. Actually, he's going to go in B because he's a little more interesting than Leona with the way that he has to fish for hooks. And set up his ult sometimes. Nico is E just because she brings nothing to the game. There was no point in adding her except for her passive, which ends up being significantly less useful than Riot thought it was going to be, to the point where it's useless. Her one reason to be in the game, nobody even takes use of because it's bad. She belongs in E tier. There's no point putting this character in the game. Nidalee, I think, is sort of C tier, but again, a champion that sort of borders on taking over pro play if she's ever pushed too far. Nocturne is also C tier, but for different actually, really he belongs like D tier because he's just like he's almost like a stat check champion with the way that his ult works, and it also lasts just so goddamn long that like things revolve around his ult so much that his base kit is just not interesting literally at all to me. Except the spell shield, sort of. No, Milla is B tier. They're pretty cool. I like them. Not really much to say. I don't think they belong. They're crazy good or crazy bad. Olaf, I think, is down here because he's too binary with the way that, like, he just tends to take over games with his ult. I don't think a character that can like run into your backline and just kill you without being able to CC them is really healthy for the game. Even if they do, he loses armor and MR for doing that, but like I don't think it matters. Orianna is B just because she's sort of like Lee Sin, but I think she's too much more of a catch-all champion where she like also has like engage and stuff like that. And I think she's just a more boring, like, because she's a much more bland champion to play Lee Sin. She stifles aggression in lane, whereas Lee Sin enables aggression, which doesn't mean that they're more interesting designs per se, of course, but like the way that Orianna stifles aggression to me isn't as interesting, where like she just has passive sass with the ball on her. Like, that's not that interesting. Ornn is B just because I really like the way that his kit works and it's cool, but is C actually. It's not that the way that his item upgrades work isn't interesting enough of a late game advantage for your team to really make me put him higher. Pantheon's A tier because I think he's a really cool champion. His kit works, but he's not higher because they can't really figure out how to make him stay in the lanes that and build the way that he's supposed to. Poppy's S tier. This champion is the definition of good tank design these days. She wasn't before. She's unique in the sense that she's a tank that you pick to kind of like almost beat a lot of bruisers that like most other tanks here can't beat. And she has very unique aspects with both her W blocking dashes and her ult being able to like it's not just like a stun or a knockback, it knocks people back crazy far. And she has a lot of counterplay as well to the way that you can shift around so that she can't E-stun you. There's plenty of ways you can avoid her ult by like, stunning her to interrupt it, sidestepping it, any number of things. Pike I think is C tier because I think his power budget is too backloaded into just getting a shitload of gold that the rest of his kit just isn't as interesting otherwise. Qiyana is C tier only because her kit is kind of fine, but her ult I don't really feel like belongs on an assassin with like a team-wide engage potential sort of thing, and I think her art design is just... I haven't really been talking about the character's art designs that much here because mostly about gameplay. But hers is so egregiously generic that like she just loses points for that. Quinn is in D tier just because like this champion, they cannot figure out what they want to do with and what her identity is. She just ends up being a top lane champ that just roams. Not that interesting. Rakan is B tier because, he's got a very interesting kit where he's like half enchanter, half engage. But the problem is like, even to this day, it's not as true, but a lot of his power budget is just put into his like engage. Like it's just like the ult, flash, engage, whatever, that he can feel too binary. Rammus is, to me, too binary to be higher, but he's Rammus doing Rammus things, and they reworked him, so I think he's fine now. Rek'Sai, I think, is fine since they fixed her. Again, not much to say. She's like an interesting early game jungler with the way that she sets up her tunnels and gank setups in ways that other characters don't. She's not particularly interesting other than that, but, And she's like almost a pseudo form swap champion, but like, it's not as interesting as it sounds. Renekton, I think these days is fine. Again, he's a stock standard top lane bruiser. He's Renekton doing Renekton things. It's not particularly offensive to me in a lot of cases these days, but I don't think like he does anything super interesting either. I think he's just Renekton. Rengar I think belongs down here, but he's getting reworked again soon, or like vaguely like touched up. Because to me, Renekton has a half of a bruiser's kit and half of an assassin's kit that they can never tell how to make work for just assassin, and I think they need to figure that out long term. Riven I think is fine, but I think that the problem with Riven is she's too balanced around convoluted animation cancels and stuff like that for the long term health of the game. Rumble I think is fantastic design. I don't think you can go wrong with Rumble at all. I think he's a super unique champion that has very clear strengths and weaknesses that are healthy for the game. Very clear high moments of gameplay with the way that you set up his ult. I don't think there's anything wrong with Rumble in particular in terms of design. I think he can be oppressive where he shoves you in too much, but the thing is, he's very easy to gank, so I don't think that that's a meaningful thing to complain about. Rise, been reworked too much. This champion, same reasons as LeBlanc, dominates pro play and high level play way too much. Has way too much extremes in use of, pro players and like average players, and they've had 5 different iterations and none of them have fixed the issues. I think that this champion long term is going to need complete changes. I don't think they can they've tried to keep his identity before and it's never worked. We're starting to get to the point where you can't see the champions. I'm hovering actually. Sejuani is B tier. She's a standard tank jungler. She has clear counterplay, in the sense that like to get her gank set up, the person needs to be melee, so they need to be a little bit closer If they're melee, they need to be closer to help her gank set up, and if it's a ranged character, she needs to do more work to set up her own ganks. So I think that's interesting. Senna is D tier because she should not... There's design elements that are absolutely cool, but I don't think a character... Personally, I think trying to balance a character long-term for ADC and support really works because of the fundamental differences with those roles. I can respect that they tried, but I think we have yet to see that succeed. Set, I think, actually goes down somewhere between C and D, probably leaning towards C. Because, I mean, his kit is simple and it gets the job done, but it probably has too much utility for his long-term health as a character for a bruiser to have when compared to, like, Renekton, Darius, stuff like that, to the point where he's played as support. Shaco... Yeah, Shaco's mostly fine, but his Q is a little bullshit to deal with, but they've mostly fixed it, so I don't really have too many complicated thoughts on him. Shen, I think, is like B tier, but the problem with Shen is that his ult is so polarizing for potential competitive play that he can go like yeah, he could just be really annoying design because he has globals in ways other characters don't. But I think they've mostly done a good job fixing that with the changes they've done to the shield scaling and all that. Shyvana's E tier just because she's literally just a champ that just runs at you. Everything she does just runs at you, and no part of that is interesting for either side. Singed, I'm going to be honest, I think these days, I think he's B tier, but I think the thing is, at the end of the day, while his design is simple and works, I do think it's a slightly unhealthy thing to make people have to chase you to, like, you know, kill them. I don't know. Just my personal opinion. Sion, like Poppy, I think is like the epitome of tank design where he's got telegraph things that are very obvious what they do and really fulfills the tank fantasy very well. I don't really have anything bad to say. Sivir is C because her kit is fine and mostly inoffensive, but too geared towards just wave clearing and being uninteractive to really be more interesting. Skarner, I mean, they're reworking this champ, so like I don't really need to say much about Skarner. They've tried too many times to rework him, and it just hasn't worked either. Sona is C tier because, actually probably D tier, because I think her design is a little bit too catered towards being an AoE aura bot late game, even after the rework. And all this invisible power doesn't end up feeling very interesting for the team playing with her, but it feels very oppressive for the team playing against her since there's not much you can do to stop her from hitting buttons other than just killing her. Soraka, I think, is B tier because even though she's an annoying-ass healer, these days she kind of has to work for her heals in a lot of ways she didn't used to have to, so I think she's fine. But I think because she has so much healing, I don't think she should be higher than that. Swain, I think, is B tier because I think everything about his design is cool, but they cannot figure out how to balance it in such a way that he's played the way that he's meant to be played, so he's not going to go higher. Silas is also B. These days he's C tier. I think his kit could have been more interesting, but they simplified it too much over time to the point where there's not really interesting aspects of it the way that I wish that there was, like used to be. But I think his ult is a super cool idea for the game, so you know, can't be too mad about that. Syndra, B tier. She's just standard these days. Not much to say. Tom is a little bit too recent, but I'll put him in B tier because I think new Tom has clear strengths and weaknesses, is very unique. As always, he has good art and voice acting, but I think they did a good job fixing him. Talia is E, same reasons as Aurelion. Remember what I said for Aurelion? It's pretty much the same thing as Talia. Granted, we're talking mid-lane Talia. Talon, I think, is fine, but a little bit too, again, encouraged to not interact with his other laner to be healthier. Taric, I actually think, is D tier because similar to Sona, he has a lot of invisible power in his kit. He's very team reliant. And he doesn't have enough in his kit that he can do proactively to make him interesting. Teemo is Teemo. He's going D tier. You know why. Thresh is the playmaker support. These days, there's nothing egregious with him at all. He was a little bit too ahead of his time, but by now, Thresh is Thresh. You know, there's very few more iconic champs in the game than him for a reason. He's not particularly bullshit, but he's very unique. He's got playmaking. And, you know, he's what defined the modern support, I would say. Tristana, I actually think is B just because, like, I think she's got some very interesting high moments with the way her resets works, but I think she's, you know, very simple otherwise. But she's simple, but, like, she gets the job done like a lot of these other champions, right? I don't think she does anything particularly bullshit where, like, yeah, she can have really crazy range, but it takes a really long time to get there. Her wave clearer can be annoying, but if she shoves too hard, even if she has no control over shoving sometimes, where like she can shove too hard and then end up losing lane because of that. So, yeah. Trundle goes in D because he's his pillar is too polarizing. Very funny joke, polar, get it, huh? Where it's too polarizing for immobile characters, I think, to be healthy. And he's mostly just a stat stealer. But he's not super offensive like these guys. Tryndamere, this champion's like Shyvana, but like way better at it and like way more annoying with the way that his ult is balanced. Tryndamere, this champ should not exist. I think Twisted Fate is A tier because he's a champ that really is unique in that he is a mid laner focused on playing the map, but he has to play the lane much more carefully than some of these other characters where he can't just shove and roam because he's a lot different from them. And, you know, he's a character that really teaches you to play globals from mid lane, which is very interesting. Which I think is B tier because he's got a cool kit that can really do a lot of neat stuff. But he's a little bit too geared towards late game, just coming out of Q and just like popping auto and Hail of Blades and just killing a bunch of people before they have a chance to even do anything about him. But because he has to kind of be careful about how he sets that up, I think it's fine. Udyr, this character's getting reworked too. There's no reason to say anything about Udyr. Urgot I think is super cool. I think the only reason he's not going to go higher is because he's another champion that could be, the way his kit is a little too polarizing for certain champions to deal with. But, you know, very unique. The coolest ult in the game, arguably. Still fits the old character's purpose to an extent. I think he's cool. Varus, I think, is C tier. I think Varus is just, like, he doesn't do anything. For me, Varus is, like, nothing is particularly offensive, but he doesn't do anything really that interesting. He's either this kind of, like, lethality Varus that just pokes people with Q, or he's just this on-hit Varus that doesn't really do anything in particular. And that's kind of it. I don't think there's anything else to really say about that. Vayne, too polarizing with the way her true damage scaling is balanced, I think, where they can never really truly balance her for laning and anti-tank stuff to really be cooler. I don't know. Veigar goes in B tier. I think he would go higher, but I think the way that he's a little bit... the cage is a bit of a crutch for him, I think, is the only problem I have with his design. But also, he's kind of encouraged to play too passive to be higher than that. Vel'Koz goes down here. I think as an artillery mage, he's just too uninteractive and like too hard to put behind because of his base numbers to really do anything cool with. Victor. Too focused on wave clear with his E, but lately they have fixed that where like he is a little bit too focused on being a little uninteractive, but it takes him some time to get there and he does have to fight for it, so it's fine. Vi, I think Vi just does Vi things where, you know, she's very good champion to pick into like immobile comps sometimes, but I think she does have to sacrifice a lot to kind of like lock people down. And she can feel a little clunky sometimes, but when you do kind of get those punches out, it feels amazing. Vladimir should not exist. Ranged, sustained mage character should not exist, I don't think. And they have not done a good job. Even the rework did not fix him that well. So this is old Volibear, but we're going to pretend it's new Volibear. I think he's fine. Disabling Towers is a super cool and unique new thing that he has, and he still fits the old character, even though he feels very different. But he still feels fair. Warwick only goes in B tier because he's so crazy buggy in a lot of ways and feels so clunky that he can't go like an S or A like I kind of want to put him. Wukong, I don't have enough experience with the new Wukong to really tell you. But, well, actually, no, I think I do. I think he goes in B tier. I think they fixed a lot of issues Wukong had, and I think he feels a lot more interesting to play. I think old Wukong would have been down here, but new Wukong's fine. So I think she's too binary with the way that her feathers work, and it's too annoying to keep track of all the feathers for the average player to really have her be any higher than here. Like, the feathers to me are like too gimmicky with the way that their damage scaling works. Xerath, he's gonna go down here. I just think, like Vel'Koz, he's an artillery mage that's just a little too uninteractive to lane against to feel more interesting. And a lot of the times, like, Also, like the way this Q works, it's more about if he can land it than like you can't reactively dodge it. So if you're playing against a good Zerath that's landing his Qs, it can be hard to vary up your movement so he can't hit it. Xin Zhao, I think new Xin Zhao's fine. I think he's too overpowered, but I think his kit, while it's simple, they've done a very good job of making it more dynamic with his ult and W changes, without making it overly complicated. Yasuo, I actually don't think belongs down here, but I think he does belong like D tier, a little bit leaning towards C, just because Windwall. I can't say really anything about Yasuo other people haven't said. I don't think it's so egregious as to put him down here with these champs. That's all. Yorick I think is fine, but I think any champion that's that focused on split pushing without, like, to the detriment of the rest of their kit, I just don't think is that interesting personally. I don't think he's unhealthy. I just don't think he's interesting. Yuumi should not exist. We're adding another tier here. We're adding another tier. This tier is going here. This champ goes here. I play support and I've played Yuumi, so I get to say that. Zac is a really cool champ, actually. I think his thematic is super amazing, which, again, I'm not talking about thematics as much because I'm kind of rapid firing. But, you know, he's a really cool champ that can engage and take different angles for fights almost nobody else can. And he brings a lot to the table in terms of CC and damage in ways that other characters just don't do. Zed, I think by now is fine, but I think my only gripe with Zed, even though he seems like a perfect assassin design, is he's a little too safe to be healthier. The reason Echo gets a pass is because he's sacking more to be safe, to me, in some matchups than Zed is. Now, some people would say him chucking Timewinder is less interactive than Zed, but I think the way that they end up playing out, I prefer. I don't mind Echoes as much because he's not going to blow me up at level 6. Ziggs, I think, is fine, but I think the way his Q works could be improved. I think he's A. I think the reason he doesn't go higher is because his Q is just a little bit clunky to work around. Zillion, I think, goes here because, like, Zillion's a cool design, but it leans too much towards enabling hyper carries in ways that don't feel as interesting as they could be. But his ult, it doesn't last long enough for it to be so polarizing that you can't do anything about it, and where he would end up down here. Zoe, I think by now is fine, actually, but I think that because, like, the RNG and her W doesn't matter as much because there's a lot of items in the pool that aren't particularly crazy, and they removed a lot of the ones that were. She doesn't just one-shot you randomly with just a Q anymore. She has to land the E. But I think her play pattern is, like, too frustrating to put her any higher than C or B. And even then, I think she's leaning a little bit towards C here. Zyra is a little bit too binary of a support where she just kind of, like, pokes you to death. And she's, again, a champion that's a little bit too focused on defensive stuff with her ult. For me to really put, she just feels like a generic poke mage. She doesn't really feel that different from, like, Brand or anything like that. She doesn't feel like she stands on her own. So this is where I would put their designs if you want to take a quick peek. That was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but there you go. There's the full list. I'm sure that if I took more time to do this, I would change it up a little bit, but that's how I feel. And now we're going to do one that's a little quicker because I'm winding down. I'm going to do... Well, I had these, but sports and Wii Sports, but I don't know most of these sports. This is going to be from a spectator perspective. Let me rapid fire this. Wrestling, funny to watch, but I don't really like it. Is this soccer? Soccer's boring, D tier. Shooting, I don't know what that is. Hold on, we're going to add a row below. We're going to be adding another row here. Oh, stop doing that. American football, it's fun to watch, but it's a little too slow with commercial breaks. Archery, or actually, let me put one more. No opinion. That's what I'm gonna put. There we go. What is it? I don't know what some of this stuff is. Is this cycling in like an arena? What is this? I can't tell what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't. Is this rugby? Wasn't there rugby down here though? No. Rugby is fun to watch. People throwing hands. I don't know what that is. This is badminton. I like badminton. Baseball. Too many commercial breaks, too much downtime. I'm gonna put D tier. As a spectator. Basketball, the opposite problem. There's too much scoring in the last 2 minutes are all that matter. D tier. Pool is it's fun to play, but I don't like to watch. So I'm gonna put D tier. I don't know what is going on there. I don't know. Dirt bike? I love watching the dirt bike stuff. What is this? I don't know what that is. I can't tell. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Bodybuilding? That does not count. Bowling is fun to play, but again, not really to watch. Boxing? It can be fun to watch, I guess. But I don't like the violence that much. Kayaking? I hate watching that kind of stuff. Rock climbing? I hate watching that. Actually, that can have some fun. Cricket? No. Actually, I kind of like this, but I don't know why. So I'm going to put a little bit of my own bias in here, but you know. Cycling? Hell no. It takes them like days. No. I don't know what that is. Biking? I love watching the biking, like I said. I don't know. Is this power walking? I don't know what some of this is. Diving? I love watching diving. It's like elite. It's kind of elite. Is this dodgeball? Dodgeball? Hell yeah. Yeah, they really use the thing from the movie. I love that. That's great. I love that movie. Dodgeball is a fantastic movie. The dog thing is not a sport. This is not a sport either. The horse is doing the work. Fencing? Fencing could be fun. I like watching the ice skating. I don't know what that is. Nah, this is too boring. It takes too long to finish a race. This is also not a sport. I don't know what that is. Yeah, all the racing stuff's gonna go. Oh, golf is not a sport in my opinion. That's controversial, but you know, that's just my opinion. Just because of the physical exertion is not really a thing. It's just about physical finesse. And there's other things that have physical finesse that are not considered sports. To me. But that's an extreme bias, so take that for what you will. No offense to anybody who plays golf, of course. Is there any other sport here I reckon? Oh, this is soccer. I thought this was soccer. What is this, volleyball? I don't know what that is. I'm just going to find the ones that... This is not a sport. You know, I'm just going to look at the ones I recognize. Baseball... Wait, no, this is softball. Softball goes in the same league as baseball. Same thing. Tennis? S tier, because I'm biased. I love tennis. Tennis is great. Tennis is fantastic. I love tennis. There's so much action in tennis. Soccer, though, too boring. Nope. Soccer's going in F tier. Most of the world would not agree with me, but you know what? They don't have to know. I don't know. Weightlifting, I like watching. This is not a sport. Sorry, fellas. Yeah, I guess we could have ended on the league champ one, but I would do another one, but I don't have time for that. I gotta do some stuff real quick and then probably head to bed for work tomorrow. So, you know how it is. That was fun. I was going on for a long time about this and the League One. Where did the League One go? Oh, did I close the League One? Shit, I did. That's unfortunate. Oh well, that was fun. It's a different kind of thing that I usually do. I think I'm streaming something again tomorrow, but I don't remember what it is. So check Twitter and check. It should be down there. If it's not down there, it's definitely on Twitter. I'm streaming something else again tomorrow, same time at 8, but I don't remember what it is, to be honest with you. But I'll find out probably later. But for now, I will see you all around. Goodbye.